Good evening, everybody. What's up? I want to remind everybody who's watching on either channel, the home of the official YT Purge or the NT's The Boiler Room. We are simulcasting. Like, share, subscribe. We just gonna get it popping. Ain't no long opening, intro, montage, any of those things. At least not yet. There are some things that I want to talk about when it comes to this particular case right here. I kind of wanted to do like a rant, and then it's really it seems like it's something better to just like kind of start up a conversation with, right? Because this whole stand your ground thing, it seems to be like up for interpretation. And then self-defense, what's not. And I would like to know, and trust me, the panel's open. Anybody that wants to come up, please feel free to come up. Tell us what your thoughts are on it. But anybody that does come up, I want to know first and foremost, when is it okay to just put your hands on somebody against their will? You know? So that's and when is it okay to defend yourself, or when is it considered self-defense after someone has put their hands on you? You know, regardless. So this is some crazy questions, but first and foremost, I don't already said that shit. So now, and I should have said this first. My heart goes out to to the families, to all of the families involved, especially the family that has lost a child. The boy, what was his name? Austin Metcalf. His family. I couldn't imagine what that is to go through. So, I'm saying, my condolences to that family. And, my heart goes out to the family that has a child that's in jail right now with over $1 million bond. That's something else that I'd like to discuss right here too. Like $1 million. Like, this is what bugs me out. I've seen everybody and their mother, right? Well, I say that, but I've seen everybody on here trying to turn this shit into some damn, black versus white, red versus blue, liberal versus conservative. I done seen all of this shit, poor versus rich, blah blah. I've seen it all, right? Far left versus far right. We done seen it when it comes to this shit. Okay. I want to know when it's okay to just throw $1 million bond at a motherfucker, especially when they have a case for self-defense. Now, does that mean that it's clear-cut case of self-defense? No. In America, you are entitled to due process, and you are innocent until proven guilty. You get a trial by your peer, a trial by jury of your peers, and you also get a right to an attorney and the best defense possible, whatever, blah. But $1 million effing dollars, like $1 million billion bond, $1 million. Like, that's deep. That's extremely deep right there. So I know I have some clips on that. One of the things that I did want to bring up before I even get started, I remember there was a case a while ago, in South Florida, where a man was pushed to the ground and he pulls out his pistol and shoots somebody. They were arguing over a parking spot. And a dude, after getting pushed, he pulls out his pistol, pops somebody. Now, originally, the cops just let him go with stand your ground. Dude didn't even go to jail. Now, of course, the state attorney ended up getting it, and then they ended up trying him and convicted him of manslaughter. And he's currently serving 20 years. He's done about 6 of the 20 already. And I'm going to come on camera in a moment, and we are going to break down that one, because it seems like it's some similarities Because if it's something that even has to go to trial, it just seems like $1 million. Oof. They say the cash bond system, the way it's currently in place, might just fall into the category of unconstitutional anyway. Just because of the way it impacts, the poor, the impoverished, and shit like that. And basically the way it affects the rich. So basically, with $1 million bond, if you're rich, you can get out. If you're rich, you can get out. And if you're poor, your ass sit in jail. Even though you're innocent until proven guilty. Isn't that something? But if you're rich, you can get out. And if you're poor, you got to sit your ass in jail until they determine whether or not you're guilty. That's why it's like, I get it. I get it. But I don't. So that's one of the things that I don't really see many people bringing up is the $1 million bond. $1 million bond. Like, that's something that I would definitely like to talk about. Like, where do you come up with a number like that for a 17-year-old in a situation like that, right? So, hold up. Yeah. So they're saying, like, right now, the lawyers are trying to get a lower bond. I don't know. Like I said, I'd like to get the conversation going as far as that goes. What up, Cynical One? Let me give a roll call. Cynical One's in the building. Bronze, most hated flat power god. I saw Melanated Agenda in the building too. Sat Passe. We hear she's in the building too. All right. So, hold up. Y'all got to forgive me. I'm kind of moving around, doing all types of stuff, outside, enjoying the fresh air, the usual. Turn this shit down. All right. So that's just what bugged me out with everything is $1 million bond, like $1 million.
A high school track meet resumed today under tighter security after a deadly stabbing last week. Good evening, I'm Steve Eager.
And I'm Heather Hayes. That event was relocated to Little Elm from Frisco with strict requirements for parents and for students. Fox 4's Alex Boyer has more on the event and on the criminal investigation. Alex.
Hey guys, and I can tell you that enhanced security presence was really obvious as soon as folks drove up to Lobo Stadium in Deep Elm. Spectators as well as student athletes had to undergo screening before they could even go in the front doors.
There was a very visible police presence at Lobo Stadium in Little Elm Monday. Student athletes and spectators were met by security personnel as soon as they walked up to the front doors. They had to go through metal detectors and have their bags checked before being allowed inside the UIL track meet. Little Elm and Frisco police also provided more security personnel.
And one way or another, people begin to sort of do the Monday morning quarterbacking by saying, look, we could have and may have done the following things.
Dr. Alex Del Carmen is a criminologist who has been following the developments in this case. Last Wednesday, 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was killed after he was stabbed in the chest during a fight with 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony over what was said to be a seating dispute in the bleachers. Anthony has...
Oh, fucking, okay. Like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I guess they're right. A seating dispute. But what ended up happening was, matter of fact, I'm gonna read some of this shit to you guys. Well, matter of fact, I'll let this play and then I'll read it to you.
Since been charged with first-degree murder.
Unfortunately, victimization could happen at any time, at any moment, even when we think that we are safe.
Monday also brought the first public comments from the attorneys representing Carmelo Anthony in a statement that said, in part, Carmelo and the entire Anthony family are sincerely saddened that a life was lost and offer their condolences to the family of Austin Metcalf. During this difficult time, we urge the public to refrain from rushing to judgment before all the facts and evidence are presented. And with social media comments swirling about this case, community activists are pressuring Frisco PD to be transparent about the status of the criminal investigation.
The data shows that these acts of violence are random, and they don't happen, every day. Now, the question really is the community concerned enough to be able to, pay the taxes, pay the money, to have the security protocols that need to be in place?
And time will tell. In the meantime, I can tell you that Anthony remains in the Collin County Jail on that $1 million bond. In that same statement from his attorney, the attorney says that amount is, quote, excessive and is looking to get it reduced. For now, they say they are not making any further comment.
A high school track meet resumed.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where they leave it, That's pretty much where they leave it, talking about, hey, the bond is excessive and they're trying to get it reduced. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Herbie said this is not they meeting each other. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, they probably had issues with each other. Hey, opposing schools, opposing football players and shit like that. I'm just saying, I mean, look. Oof. I'm like, what is self-defense? If it's not self-defense anymore after someone puts their hands on you, like I could play a bunch of the clips and shit from these damn conservative leaning channels, from the liberal leaning channels and shit, the independent channels. You're going to hear different shit. Okay. You're just going to hear different shit. Some people are saying, he was just supposed to fight. I'm like, he's supposed to just fight him. You know what I'm saying? This dude and his linebacker brother and the rest of the damn school and all of that other shit. I don't know about fighting. Should he have a knife in his pocket, in his bag? I guess not. I don't know what type of knife it was. We didn't get to see the knife. What up, Sinister Salt? We didn't get to see the knife. So we don't know exactly what type of knife it was. So, not quite sure. Hold up. Let's see what else I got here. Let's see what else we got here.
Stabbed at a high school track meet near Dallas, according to the arrest affidavit.
All right, let me get that. And that, y'all gotta forgive me, don't have my equipment.
David, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony has confessed to the killing. Saying he was trying to protect himself.
He knew how much I loved him, how much I do for him. I do anything for him.
Hunter Metcalf says he held his twin brother Austin as he was dying.
I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and I'm not going to talk about the rest. So.
It happened at the district championship meet in Frisco. Hunter says his brother had asked Carmelo to move his seat because he was sitting under the wrong tent. A witness says Carmelo replied, "Touch me and see what happens." And when Austin grabbed him, Carmelo allegedly pulled a knife.
They asked him to move.
Like, yo, that's kind of where I am with you, Ron's most. I mean, I'm sorry that a life is taken, right? And it had to get to this point. You know, it speaks to the mentality and the atmosphere that this kid has to, you know, go to something that's supposed to be as friendly as a damn track meet, whatever, you know, with a knife in his bag, ready to pop off. But at the same time, when the fuck is it okay to just put your hands on somebody and try to move them against their will? Now, look, some people might say that, hey, touch me and you'll see what happens, or touch me and see what happens. Some people will say that's a fair warning. Some people will say that, hey, maybe you just wanted to show him a magic trick or some shit. Hey, on some pull my finger shit. Hey, touch me, see what happens. Pull my finger. Whatever. I don't know. All I'm saying is this shit here. What up, Red Pill? I'm just saying this shit here. Once you put your hands on somebody, self-defense is kind of whatever the fuck they're able to do to defend themselves. That's what I would think. I've heard people, you know, say, and, you know, what was this? I think I was watching the Cartier family, right? And they're like, well, I mean, he wasn't strangling him or anything. I was like, what the fuck is you supposed to wait until somebody strangles you? I don't know, you know? Now, I guess the question is, should he have had a knife in the first place? Probably not. Depends on the type of knife he had. You know, could have been just a basic, you know, work box cutter, you know what I'm saying, pocket knife, Boy Scout knife, whatever. I mean, what the fuck boy doesn't carry a damn knife? You know? The knife was 5.5 inches or under, so it was legal. That's what I'm saying. You know? That's what I'm saying. DOD, like, I like an independent stance, but you've seen a lot of these quote unquote, you know, conservative channels and shit that are so scared to piss off, you know, these far left, you know, I'm sorry, these far right conservatives, because they might lose a fucking audience because they were able to build all these platforms and shit wearing MAGA caps and shit. You know, they're so scared to do it that they act like they don't understand that this kid right here has a clear case for self-defense. Is he going to win? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to be a juror, you know, in this shit right here. So I don't know. You know, it's really not up to me to decide. But is there a case? Of course there's a fucking case. Like, there's a case. You know? You know? There's a case. Once somebody puts their hands on you and pushes you, I don't see what else you're supposed to wait on. Well, I'm just saying, though.
Move. And when Austin grabbed his backpack to move, take it, he stabbed him in the chest and killed him.
He's now charged with first-degree murder.
Just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore. And I don't understand it.
Austin is being remembered as an honors student with aspirations to play college football. Despite the shocking loss, Austin's father says he chooses forgiveness over anger.
I forgive the other person because the forgiveness is not for him. The forgiveness is for me, so I can have peace. His life is destroyed. My life is destroyed.
The arrest affidavit says as Carmelo Anthony was being arrested, he asked if Austin was okay.
Anthony is being held on $1 million bond. Andrea Fujii, ABC News, New York.
That's what I'm saying. Like, these people, $1 million?
The coldest
is
is
some
tonight.
wild shit.
So after tonight, it's not going to be quite as intense. Today's high, though, only 48 degrees.
You know, $1 million just seems like a lot, yo. It just seems like a ridiculous fucking amount, you know. But now, I'm just like, yo, self-defense. Once it's deemed that you're in a position where it's okay to defend yourself, I thought self-defense is kind of whatever the fuck you believe it needs to be. You know? So when people say, oh, well, you should have just fought or some shit like that, like, I mean, you sitting there with your linebacker twin brother and shit. I don't know, dog. You know, if a person puts hands on your reaction, can't be over their action. Hold up. A person can't push you and you strap them in the chest. Here, you know what? What up, A-Dub? No self-defense has rules and limitations. Self-defense does have rules and limitations, understandable. You know what I'm saying? Like if you stab somebody fucking 15, 20 fucking times, I get that. But, you know, like, at what point is it okay to defend yourself? Nothing was said about him getting jumped, but check this out, right? They say self-defense or even like stand your ground and shit like that. Whenever you feel as though your ass is in danger, you know, whenever you feel as though you're in danger, like you're not supposed to wait for somebody to start busting you in your shit. You know what I'm saying? If you believe that you are in danger, you have the right to defend yourself. You know? You know? And then once somebody puts their hands on you, matter of fact, this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up here. This was a case in Florida. Matter of fact, we're going to look at some more of these clips. Well, we'll get back to those. This was a case in Florida not too long ago. You guys remember this?
Camera, the argument, the push to the ground, and the shooting that ended it all. This morning, the man's girlfriend says the shooter got away with murder.
You're looking at surveillance video of a fight over a parking space that ended with an unarmed 28-year-old father of three killed. Florida police not charging the gunman, calling it an example of the state's contentious so-called stand your ground law.
I just want justice. I need something to be done because this is not right.
Brittany Jacobs was sitting in her boyfriend's idling car when, she says, 47-year-old Michael Drejka approached to tell her that she illegally parked in a handicapped spot. Her boyfriend, 28-year-old Marquise McLaughlin, had gone into the store to buy snacks for the kids. You can see McLaughlin walk out of the store. He sees and hears the argument, runs over, and pushes Drejka to the ground.
He's, pushing this man away from his girl, telling him to get away.
But that's when the irreversible happens. Drejka takes out a gun and shoots McLaughlin. McLaughlin, holding his chest, runs back into the store. Jacobs and the children watching from the car.
He collapsed in front of my son, and within 30 minutes, he was gone.
McLaughlin was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. This morning, there are reports that Drejka, the shooter, has been known to have angry encounters over parking.
Out here, he said he'll shoot me.
The store owner says he's even had to call the cops on him for confronting other customers over parking.
For a parking lot, for a stupid reason, just to argue, just to find someone to argue with.
But police say this shooting was self-defense. The Stand Your Ground law gives Floridians the right to protect themselves if they feel threatened. It was used as the defense argument for former neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman, who killed unarmed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin back in 2012. The shooting and Zimmerman's acquittal sparking national outrage. Back in Clearwater overnight, a girlfriend asking for justice.
He was a good man, and all he was trying to do was just protect his family.
Meanwhile, the local sheriff there says that even though they believe the shooting falls under that...
Well, this is why people need to keep their damn hands to themselves. Because if all he was trying to do was protect his family, this was an easy way to, number one, get himself shot multiple times, which is what ended up happening. And he could have ended up getting his family shot. This is what happens when you just put your fucking hands on people. Okay? Not assessing the situation. No, I've had this conversation with multiple people, and they say, I'm like, yo, and especially, I remember when this shit popped off, I was getting into like Facebook wars and arguments with friends of mine in New York and shit, because of course the firearms laws are different. Now, this wasn't a firearm that we're talking about with the Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf situation, but I heard multiple people were like, I'm like, yo, why push somebody to the ground that's mentally unstable and is concealing a firearm? Why would you do that? And everybody had the same damn answer. Oh, well, he didn't know that he had a firearm. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You don't. It's concealed. That's why you keep your hands to your damn selves, because you don't know what the fuck somebody has or what the hell they'll do or what their actual mental state is. So if everybody keeps their hands to themselves, the only time that you actually have to defend yourself is when someone doesn't. But if people think it's okay to just get all touchy and shit, you know what I'm saying, with people that don't necessarily want to get touched, now we got to interpret all this shit for the law. Like the law has to interpret all this stuff. And people end up dead and shit. You know? Like, why doesn't everybody just keep your hands to yourself? You know? No, I get it. The situations are not the same because one has a firearm involved and the other one doesn't. Now, keep in mind, you're about to hear more. In this case, what ended up happening was, of course, the cops let this dude go because of Stand Your Ground. Later on, it went to the state attorney. The state attorney charged this motherfucker, took him to trial, and they won. He ended up getting 20 years for shooting this dude in the parking lot. Okay? So even though the sheriffs believe that shit was self-defense with the Florida Stand Your Ground law, the state decided that it wasn't.
That Stand Your Ground law, he's not saying he agrees with it. Police will now send the case over to the state attorney's office for a final decision, Robin.
All right, Gio. Joining us now is our senior legal correspondent and analyst, Sonny Hostin, a former federal prosecutor.
And look at this shit. Sonny Hostin, see, you get to hear what she had to say 6 years ago when this case popped off. It's amazing how people change over the years when they get a little fame and shit.
Good morning, Sonny. I mean, we saw this video and we've been talking about it. Many people have. It's being shoved to the ground, justification for this law. And you can see that Marquise was walking away, was going back to his car. He wasn't continuing.
Facts. Now, keep in mind, the reason why they ended up, for the most part, charging this guy is because the guy is walking away and still gets shot some more. Like, he shoots him, and then when the guy is trying to get away from him, he shoots him again. That's why he got the manslaughter charge. Okay? But I agree with you, DOD. What's the same is that, hey, it's considered self-defense when somebody puts their hands on you. You know? Now, apparently, according to what, yeah, that's Sonny. That's Sonny. Apparently, This kid, it's gonna be tough to be like on your way out if you got stabbed in the fucking chest. Like, you're obviously not trying to flee. The kid says, touch me and you'll see what happens. Then you put your hands on him and then you're still facing him to the point where he can stab you in the motherfucking chest. You're obviously not going away because your back ain't to him. Your back ain't to him, your side ain't to him, none of that shit. You up in the motherfucking grill. Like, you push somebody and you stood over him. So he stabs you. What the fuck? You know? Like, I don't know. You know? I don't know. And that's why I say I wanted to get the convo going, with this, because it looks like self-defense. To me, it looks like self-defense, but a lot of people are saying that it's not, or it's excessive.
To confront him.
That's the problem with the stand your ground laws. I mean, it allows a person to use deadly force if he or she reasonably believes that they are in danger of any harm or death. And it also sort of eliminates this duty to retreat. It used to be when you were in public, you had to flee, you had to retreat from a situation. Now, even if the alleged attacker is retreating, you can still use deadly force against that person.
I know if they continue to show the video, I know we're stopping it here as he's getting shot, but he was clearly turning and walking back to his car. Oh, so he comes out of the store. He sees this confrontation. We heard in the piece, his girlfriend said he was doing nothing more than protecting his family and shoving him to the ground. Why isn't that?
And a horrible job at that, might I add. Okay? It was after he took them those slugs, his family could have took some slugs too. If you really wanted to protect your family, motherfucker, you should have done everything that you could to stay alive. Get in the car and drive away. Put that shit in your rear view mirror. I don't see how putting your hands on somebody that's packing a pistol is protecting your family. And I'm going to keep saying that shit, man. And I don't want to hear I'm going to hear the excuse all the time. Well, he didn't know he had a pistol. That's why you don't put your fucking hands on people, because you don't know what the fuck they got. If you're that unaware of the situation, man, you damn sure don't need to be putting your hands on people. I'm just saying. Like, people just going off half-cocked. You don't know a motherfucker. You don't know what the fuck he holding, and you just gonna put your hands on him?
That justification.
Yeah, why wasn't he standing his ground?
Right.
And that's the tricky thing about stand your ground. Perhaps he was feeling threatened. Perhaps he was feeling the need to defend himself and to defend his spouse, to defend his child. But then it shifts when he pushes the other person. And now that person can stand their ground. It's sort of...
That's why I want to know, like, I get it. What type of force is justified? Like, people like, how is deadly force? I'm like, is there really any other kind? When you fear for your life, or you say you fear for your life, or what the fuck ever, or when you're defending yourself. I understand that there can be excessive force, but any force that's used, is force that's used.
Just the wild, wild west. Prosecutors don't like the stand your ground laws. When it was passed in 2005, prosecutors opposed it. Law enforcement officials.
Of course, the prosecutors aren't going to like a law like stand your ground. It makes it tough to convict people. You know what I'm saying? It makes it extremely tough to convict people. Why the fuck would prosecutors like stand your ground laws? Huh? It gives defense attorneys an extra loophole to get people off.
Opposed it. But here we are years later, and 24 states have passed these laws.
24 states.
Yeah, or a little over 24.
Okay. We heard in Gio's piece, the store owner and others saying that the shooter is known to be having altercations like this, as far as not as shooting, but altercations with people parking. So will that play in if he is charged, play into it? Because it's almost like he's looking for a fight.
You would think, but stand your ground laws were meant to allow this kind of behavior. They were meant to make sure that average residents could protect themselves without fear of not only criminal prosecution, but civil prosecution as well. So the question is, will the state's attorney charge this person? If past is prologue, we've seen what happened in the Trayvon Martin case.
Yeah.
Prosecutors lose these cases. In Florida, even police officers are using stand your ground. So do I think that he's going to be charged? I really don't think so.
And you can understand why the sheriff probably.
And Sonny was dead effing wrong. Dead effing wrong. And y'all are about to see it. I'm going to play a clip because, yeah, he did get charged. he very much got charged. Yes.
They said putting off on the state attorney.
Well, under the law, believe it or not, even if the sheriff believes that something was wrong,
right,
but self-defense applies, stand your ground laws apply, they cannot arrest. They are not allowed to arrest someone.
Say that.
Isn't that something?
So he could not have the right to arrest him, even that?
Even if he realizes something is morally wrong. If this sheriff believes that stand your ground laws apply, he is not allowed under the law to make an arrest, which is why you see the shift to the state's attorney.
That does make sense. All right. Or no sense at all, actually.
Yeah.
Sonny, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos.
All right. So, matter of fact, we're going to get back into that right there. Hear a little bit more. We'll follow up with that, right?
Brittany Jacobs says she won't rest until Micah Durka is behind bars.
I'm here to get justice, and it's really sad.
Durka shot Jacobs' boyfriend, Marquise McLaughlin, at the Circle A Food Mart in Clearwater yesterday while fighting about a handicapped parking spot.
He was a great father, and he didn't deserve this at all.
She says Durka started the confrontation.
He just started walking around my car, telling me, where I can park and where I can't park at, and I shouldn't be parking in the handicap spot.
McLaughlin came out of the store and pushed Durka to the ground. Seconds later, he fired a shot, hitting McLaughlin in the chest in front of his family. He later died at the hospital. Durka said he was standing his ground.
I think it's wrong, and it shouldn't be right because he came approaching me, and all Marquise did was try to protect us and protect his family.
Sheriff Bob Gualtieri said Durka was within his rights to defend himself.
Now, this is what the sheriff said. Off rip. He said he was within his rights to defend himself. This is what the deputy sheriff says, but the state attorney chose different. So that's what I'm saying. Y'all can tell me this is clear cut. I don't see how any of this shit is clear cut because the cops will say one thing, state attorney will say another thing, and the jury will say something totally different. The jury will pick one side or the other. So it's deep.
After he was pushed.
In cases like this.
Don't slam them to the ground. And if you do, you're taking a chance that person might be a concealed carry permit holder, and they may decide that they're in fear and they're going to defend themselves.
That's it. Now, when somebody's in fear and they defend themselves, like this is what stand your ground kind of is. So I get it. It's a difference between somebody touching someone on the shoulder and somebody pushing somebody to the ground. But according to witness testimony here, hold up. All right. Let me bring this up a little bit. All right. So, right here, high school track meet. Now, we're going to go through the timeline of events right here before we bust this shit down. It said the brother of 17-year-old high school athlete who was stabbed to death at a track meet on Wednesday said the tragic incident was all sparked by an argument over a seat. Hunter Metcalf told WFAA his twin brother, Austin Metcalf, got into a tiff with Carmelo Anthony while out at the event in Texas because the Frisco Centennial High School 17-year-old was sitting underneath their Frisco Memorial High School tent. Okay, so the kid was supposedly sitting at the wrong tent, sitting underneath the wrong tent, the opposing team's tent. Here's a picture of it right here. Here's the crime scene. So apparently it was a downpour of rain or something like that. Now, the twin brother, his statement is, we asked him to move, Hunter said. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. All right. He said, and my brother stepped in and said, you need to move. All right. He's like, make me move. All of a sudden, he grabbed his backpack. All right. So, you know, one brother is a little tougher than the other brother, but they both linebackers for the school. He stepped in, said, you need to move. All right. Carmelo Anthony says, make me move. All of a sudden, he grabbed his backpack. It's not letting me bring it down like I'm supposed to. All right. All right, Hunter said just seconds later, he saw his brother suffering from a stab wound. All right, authorities said first responders. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, authorities said first responders got to Metcalf at around 10 a.m., but despite administering life-saving efforts, he passed away. Anthony was arrested and charged with one first-degree felony count of deletion, unaliving. All right. And as of Wednesday evening, he was being held with no bond. It's now $1 million now. Okay. Hunter said neither he nor his twin had ever encountered the team before Wednesday's incident. It was really, he said, it really was under 30 seconds, this altercation. He said, I never met this kid in my life. You know, a GoFundMe campaign has been launched by the Metcalf's father, Jeff, and over $84,000 had been raised as of Thursday morning. After the weekend, it's been over $250,000. So this has been updated. All right. I just got this because this seemed to be the best recollection of events. All right. All right. He said his passion was football. This is the father, Jeff said, voted team MVP this past season and carried a 4.0 GPA. I love you forever, son. He continued. It's not goodbye. It's see you later. God will take care of us till we meet again. Hold up. We got a little bit more to this one.
How Austin Metcalf was stabbed to death at a track meet in Frisco. Police say another teenager had fresh blood on his finger when they found him at Kirkendall Stadium.
The affidavit shows that when officers arrived, Carmelo Anthony told them he got into an argument with Metcalf, and when the arresting officer said he had the alleged suspect in custody, Anthony replied, "I'm not alleged, I did it."
But Anthony told officers he only acted in self-defense and asked them if Metcalf was okay.
Several witnesses paint a different picture, and Metcalf's father told Matt Howerton he is not buying the excuse.
I had a dream last night, and Austin came to me and said, "I'm okay." It gives me peace. Doesn't mean I don't hurt.
The last 24 hours, unimaginable for Austin Metcalf's father, his mother, his twin brother.
Right now, I'm really numb, and I really don't feel anything. I just have to function.
Metcalf, just 17 when he arrived at Frisco ISD's district track meet Wednesday. His final breaths taken before 11 a.m., police say, after being stabbed to death by a fellow Frisco ISD student, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, now charged with first-degree murder.
My world's a little shattered.
An argument over where Anthony was sitting while the meet experienced a rain delay sparked a confrontation between the teen and Metcalf.
No, I mean, hey, he's not a doctor, Shadow Dragon. He's not going to know. All he know is, hey, he stabbed the motherfucker. You know? That's all he know. And then he ran. You know? So, that's fucked up.
Metcalf, according to arrest paperwork. Anthony sitting underneath Metcalf's team tent. You could see it from the air when we flew over the crime scene. Metcalf from Memorial High, Anthony from Centennial. A witness telling police Metcalf told Anthony to move from under the team's tent because he didn't go to their school. The witness telling police Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens."
All right. So bring that shit up right there. He grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." Now, then we're going to hear a little bit more.
Bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." Investigators writing that Metcalf grabbed Anthony to tell him to move and that Anthony pulled out a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then
said stabbed him once in the chest. Now, touch me and see what happened. I'm just saying, motherfucker got his hand in his backpack saying, "Touch me and see what happens." And then, like, even notice how the reporters, are like, "Yo, he grabbed him to tell him to move." Like, why the fuck you got to grab somebody to tell them to move? And you don't even work here. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Now, it's a shame that somebody's that scared or they're in that much fear for their lives or just has what my son told me was like has that much of a sense of pride that they feel like they have to defend their seat underneath that tent, you know what I'm saying, with the knife and shit like that. It is a shame. And again, my condolences and my heart goes out to every fucking family and family member that's involved. Real shit. All right, but keep your heads to yourself, man. I want to know when the fuck it's okay to just push somebody. And when the hell is it okay to defend yourself after being pushed? No? Just saying. I'm not an attorney. I don't practice law, never have, or anything like that. But you're saying that you're underneath the tent, so it's likely a bunch of people around you in every damn direction. No? This is the star football player and his twin linebacker brother, along with the rest of the damn school. All right, is the knife excessive? Yeah, but shit. Yeah, I agree, Shadow Dragon. It's bad decision making every which way. I'm like, yo, if you got scared, like, stay the fuck home, bro. Just stay home, you know, because this shit isn't worth it. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's damn sure not worth it over some damn school pride, you know, a seat, you know, sitting there and shit. And I can remember when I was in damn high school, yeah, you know what I'm saying, the opposing team, you know, players and students and shit would come to our school all of the time. I don't ever remember some shit going down because somebody was sitting in our section. I don't ever remember no shit like that. No, ever. No. Hey. Like I said, I mean, if anything's okay, like, what does the law say? The law says, yo, you can you can punch somebody if they push you, but you can't stab them. Like, I didn't know there were like rules to defending yourself. You know what I'm saying? Other than like once the threat is no longer a threat, you can't just go overboard. That's all I be saying, man. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Everybody's like, yeah, he should have done something else, but he shouldn't have done that. I'm like, he had a fucking knife in his hand. He made one motion with the shit. He stabbed old boy one time. Says it right here. He stabbed him once. Well, he didn't go full Eric and Lyle Menendez on him. He stabbed him one time and then ran. You know? You know? I mean, hey, I'm just saying. It's at least enough for a case. You know? Now, when you got $1 million bond, though, I don't know. I know he's young, so he don't know. But you might want to sit in jail for an extra month, though. Just sit there and let that whatever fund just keep on going up. Because you are going to need that shit for your legal fees. You are going to need the best lawyers that money can buy. You know? Because you got a dead unarmed football star. Okay? And yeah, this ain't looking good. This ain't looking good at all. You know? So you're gonna need that shit to pay them damn lawyers. You damn sure don't want to spend all your money bonding out and then you can't afford to pay your lawyers. Real shit. You know? Just saying. I mean, hey, I don't know. When it comes to defending yourself, who the hell am I to tell somebody what the hell is overboard and what's not? What's overboard for me might not be overboard for you. What's overboard for you might not be overboard for him. But self-defense is like it's very vague. It's very vague. You know? And I get it. It's easy to say that shit is overboard because the result. You know, because there's a deceased child, you know, so or a young person, you know, there's a deceased young person, right? So everybody's like, yeah, that was overboard. But what if he survived? No? Yeah, it would have still been overboard, but it wouldn't be as excessive. I'm just saying, when it's time to defend yourself, what rules say that, yeah, there's a knife right here and you can defend yourself, but you can't use it? Like, bro, if it's a knife there, you have a right to use that shit if you are, in fact, defending yourself. I don't understand. Like, this shit is so damn broad. I don't know. I get it. You know what I'm saying? There's a deceased person. But this is America, man. You know, this is America. And the law is to be interpreted. That shit is vague. And I think we're going to be surprised by a lot of things. The main thing that I really am like, what the fuck, is that $1 million bond. It's a lot of money, man. I mean, look, they even said he's got his hand on the knife, right? He's got his hand either on the knife or in his bag, and then he gets pushed. He stabs the kid once. That's a reflex. Like, I don't I don't know. Well, I don't know. You know, I don't know. But the kid, if I'm not mistaken, he's already raised almost like 200 grand or some shit like that.
Ran away. When officers arrived, the knife was found, and police say Anthony admitted to what happened, but said this to police: "He put his hands on me. I was protecting myself," even asking another officer if what...
Bro, that's what I'm saying, man. And that's my point. Like, I get where you're saying you can't delete everybody that you square up with, but everybody ain't trying to square up. Like, everybody ain't trying to square up, bro. If you trying to square up with somebody and they ain't trying to square up with you, and you, bro, what the fuck? Like, somebody explain to me how y'all are like, okay, you're gonna push somebody and force them to square up with you when they're not trying to fucking square up with you. They're like, yo, don't fucking touch me. And then all of a sudden, what happens to you shouldn't have happened. I don't get that. You know? I'm just being real, bro. If I got a knife, if you have a knife in your hand, bro, and I push you with aggression, there's a chance I'm probably gonna get cut. Like, I'm probably gonna get cut. The end result, I can't tell you. So I don't push people that have knives. And if I don't know they have a fucking knife, it's because I didn't assess the situation. I didn't assess the situation. I'm just fucking putting my hands on people all willy-nilly and shit, not paying attention to the entire situation. Because if I was aware of the situation, I doubt I would touch this person in the first place. I'm sick of people assuming that the law is supposed to protect the stupid or literally the ignorant. And when I say ignorant, that is when you just ignore things that are obvious and right in front of you. Like a kid with his hand in his fucking backpack saying, touch me and see what the fuck happens. Like, I'm sorry. You know? What you got to say, Femi? Truth, that doesn't matter. Two white boys in Texas putting their hands on him as a black man. Yes, he can defend himself. I'm like, I thought anybody can defend themselves. Trust me, I'll be saying the same shit the other way around. Because I remember when that other case I just showed had first dropped, I said the same shit. No, I'm just saying, if a motherfucker said, bro, touch me and see what happens, and you touch and you push him, you bro. I mean, I gotta see you as a threat at that point. Now, do I agree with that shit? Nah, man. Nah. Because I personally don't believe in all that giving the motherfucker a warning, because you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen to you. You know? You don't do it at all. You know? And of course, the first thing that you try to do, you try to get away. You want to create distance and you want to try to get away from the situation. But this is a 17-year-old kid. This is a 17-year-old kid. How many times do you think he's actually been in those situations over the course of his life? You know, you would hope that a 17-year-old kid isn't that seasoned when it comes to de-escalating, you know, hostile situations like that. He's not going to be as seasoned as a grown-ass man in situations like that. So, you know. And, you know, it's a sense of pride, love, where, I don't know, you know, I don't know. I don't agree with any of this shit, bro. I don't agree with any of this shit. But now that it's happened, this is something for the courts to kind of sort out. You know what I'm saying? This is something for the courts to sort out. So it's like, is it self-defense? Is it not? When the fuck is it okay to just put your fucking hands on somebody, bro? And real shit, once you get pushed to the goddamn ground, I don't know. You know? You know? Because what if the kid is sitting there with a book? What if he's sitting there with a book? Kid pushes him to the ground and then just cracks that kid upside his head with a fucking book. And next thing you know, he just has a fucking brain aneurysm or some shit. Just knocks his whole shit off. Kid ends up a vegetable. Knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen to anybody. But I'm just saying, oh, that's excessive force too. It's like, nah, it's still self-defense. So why is it less of self-defense because he used a fucking knife? Like, I don't know. Once you defend yourself, once it's time to defend yourself, I don't know. And I get it. It's not the same state. It's not Florida. This is Texas, I believe. So, but stand your ground is pretty much stand your ground, right? No. And that's all I'm saying, Satpase. I'm like, yo, you gotta keep your hands to yourself, bro. And if you are gonna be putting your hands on somebody, you might want to assess the situation, bitch. For real. You look for necessary fucking bulges and damn sure don't be putting your hands on a motherfucker that got his damn hand in his book bag or his backpack or some shit, or even got one on him and you don't know exactly what the fuck is in that bitch, bro. Because you don't know what the hell is going to happen to you. As a grown-ass adult, you know better. Like, you know better. But that's the shame. And I can understand where the family of the Metcalf boy is coming from, because it's like, at this point, you might as well forgive, because shit, this kid can end up getting 20, 25 years or some shit, and that's not going to bring your kid back. So you don't give a shit, That's not going to make you feel better because somebody sits in jail. You lost a kid. So, 2 lives ruined. 1 life over, another life ruined. Because at the end of the day, especially where the way things go viral, not really much you can do. Like, you never really get clear to some shit like this.
That happened could be considered self-defense.
What do you expect? If you're caught, the best thing you're going to do is try to lie your way out of it.
Metcalf's father telling me self-defense is not a reasonable excuse.
The truth will come out. There were too many people that were there that saw what happened. My own son told me.
In Frisco, I'm Matt Howerton.
Tonight, we have new information from the deadly stabbing at a high school track meet.
Since 5 o'clock, Frisco police released the arrest report that details the moment officers arrived at the scene.
What's up, New?
The arresting officer writes when he reported he had an alleged suspect. The officer said Carmelo Anthony said he did it. According to the arrest report, the tragic event began with the suspect sitting under another team's tent as rain fell and being told to move. A witness told police Anthony immediately opened his bag and reached in, telling the victim, "Touch me and see what happens." When the victim pushed him, witnesses say Anthony pulled a knife from the bag and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest. The murder suspect.
Like, bro. Like, I get it. If it's like, yo, move now, and then you just stab him, yeah, man, that ain't self-defense, bro. That's senseless violence. But push a motherfucker, and then you get stabbed in the chest, it's like, bro, fuck you push him for? You have a knife. Fuck you, stupid. You might get cut. Oh, you didn't know he had a knife. Oh, yeah, you didn't assess the situation. Yeah, what you don't know could end up getting you unalived. Like, real shit. Like, come on. That's why we raise our children to keep their fucking hands to themselves. Don't be hitting on nobody else. And when somebody hits you, you got to do what the fuck you got to do. Now, this is some shit that this is deep, right here. You know, like I don't. Oof. You know. I say we usually don't go that far when we tell our kids to defend themselves, especially when somebody hits you. Real. You know, you don't hit on anybody, which means, hey, you should be able to trust your damn instincts. When you feel that your ass is in danger, chances are you can act on it. Now, if you're going around just pushing people, you might be in more danger than otherwise. So don't go around hitting on people. You know, like I don't know.
Reportedly asked police on the scene if what happened could be considered self-defense and asking if the victim was going to be okay. Maria Guerrero takes a closer look at the case and the grief in Collin County.
Facing 5 to 99 years in prison if convicted, Carmelo Anthony no longer appearing as emotional as he did after being arrested in the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf.
They were twins, identical twins, and his brother was holding on to him, trying to make it stop bleeding, and he died in his brother's arms.
The horrifying scene playing out Wednesday morning during a district track meet with over 100 student athletes participating. Frisco police say Anthony, a Centennial High School student, stabbed Metcalf, a Memorial High School student, during a fight. The victim's family says Anthony was told he was sitting in the wrong spot and that the teens did not know each other. Frisco police and the school district declining to provide new information or interviews. The district also not responding to questions raised by a lot of parents about what kind of security these daytime track meets have and whether student athletes' bags are checked.
Frisco ISD doesn't use metal detectors in the school, so it would be unusual for them to have them at an athletic event of this nature.
Former Dallas ISD Chief of Police Craig Miller says it would also not be unusual for Frisco ISD to have a smaller presence of school resource officers on hand.
When you hear about these cases, you're struck with the tragic circumstances.
Defense attorney Russell Wilson, a former prosecutor, is not involved in this case, but agreed to give insight, including the potential impact of the deadly encounter happening on school grounds.
The prosecution will be saying this is a place where you wouldn't expect an incident like this to happen. And I probably would expect the defense to say that they didn't go to this incident or to this track meet intending for an altercation like this to happen.
Whether words were exchanged may not matter, says Wilson.
The Texas law, though, doesn't allow a person to use deadly force in response to verbal provocation alone.
Memorial High pausing.
Yeah, but it wasn't verbal provocation alone. The boy was pushed. It wasn't just verbal provocation. There was physical provocation. So
to remember their 11th grade warrior during second period. His accused killer in jail on $1 million bond. Approved visitors include his father, siblings, and girlfriend. In Frisco, Maria Guerrero, NBC5.
Damn.
We are tracking new details in that deadly stabbing at a track meet in Frisco on Wednesday morning at Kirkendall Stadium. Frisco police say 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was stabbed by 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony. And this morning, Frisco police issued a warning about a reportedly fake Facebook account posting what they call false and misleading information about this case. Our Larry Collins following that story for us this morning from Frisco. Larry?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, good morning, Evan.
A million? Like a million? Like real shit on, like, yo, this is one of the monopoly moments where you might just want to sit your ass in jail and let that GoFundMe shoot up. So that way you can pay them fucking lawyers, man. Real shit. You know, if you can get a hold of 200 grand, save that shit for the lawyers because you're going to need them.
Yeah, this is a case really that has captured a lot of national attention. Now this morning, Frisco police trying to get ahead of information that they say is from a fake account and that it is misleading. Frisco police say they became aware of this social media account claiming to be the chief of police. They say the post had information that was false and was misleading. They say there will be criminal charges in this matter. All this comes as we learn now more from a police arrest report. In that report, it details how a tense situation escalated when Austin Metcalf, a 17-year-old, told a 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony that
I'm just saying, like, you got to keep in mind, like, it's not even just his twin brother there. Like, you got the entire school right behind the star football player. You know, like, is there fear? Obviously. But, you know, more than likely, the school does have some kind of sign or some shit saying that there are no weapons to be permitted on school grounds, blah, blah, blah. You know, so, you know, I don't know. This is deep. This is deep. I personally believe this is going to be one of those unprecedented cases that's going to kind of change things, regardless of what happens. Either way.
Sitting under the wrong tent. The report says a short time later, Metcalf grabbed Anthony to tell him to move, and that Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest. The report says a resource officer from Staley Middle School next door was the first.
I agree with you, Femi.
It goes on to say that Anthony told the officer he was protecting himself.
When it comes to valuing human life, you value your own more than anybody's. Like, straight the fuck up, man. You know, you value your own first and foremost. That's it. I always come before you in the alphabet. So, you know, like, this is just a fucked up situation.
And that he said Metcalf put his hands on him. NBC5 had a chance to speak with attorney Russell Wilson for some insight into the case as it pertains to the idea of self-defense. Keep in mind, he is not representing anyone associated with this case.
And his defense may argue, for example, for a lesser homicidal offense. They may say that this is a manslaughter or that this is some other offense than a murder. That perhaps may have a smaller range of punishment. Or they may say that for some reason, self-defense here. I'm not sure. I don't know, again, all the facts either. But I think that both sides would very quickly begin their investigation.
And based on what we know this midday, Anthony could face from 5 to 99 years if convicted. Live in Frisco, Larry Collins, NBC5.
No. Right now, Frisco police are meeting with the leader of a North Texas activist group about last week's deadly stabbing at a Frisco track meet. According to police, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony stabbed and killed 17-year-old Austin Metcalf last Wednesday morning after an altercation. Today, the Next Generation Action Network leaders are meeting with police after voicing concerns about the investigation and reported threats to Anthony's family. NBC5's Larry Collins is following this story from Dallas. Larry?
Good morning. Yeah, that meeting is ongoing right now. Frisco police just arrived within the past 10 minutes and went inside the headquarters. All this comes after the Next Generation Action Network and activist group requested to talk with police and city leaders about their concerns. There have been questions about it.
So I'm saying, man, I get it. I've had a lot of fights too in my lifetime. I've never had to, you know what I'm saying, commit deletion. Nobody's ever been deleted in one of the altercations. But, hey, there's also been a lot of fights that have led to deletion or something. That is what it is. You know, I'm fortunate that my situation wasn't this situation. But because the motherfucker didn't handle it the way you would have, doesn't mean it's still not self-defense. I'm not saying it's a clear-cut case of self-defense. I'm just saying if you're innocent till proven guilty, $1 million does seem unfair and unconstitutional because it really just says if you're rich, you're out. And if your ass has to sit in jail even though you haven't been found guilty of anything yet. That's pretty fucked up. You know, like you got to be a fucking millionaire or at least have, you know, like your family has to have a combined amount of fucking like $1 million in fucking assets to get your ass out. It's pretty fucked up. You know, like for real. Because if I'm not mistaken, like $1 million bond, and y'all can check on this shit. I didn't do the research or homework. Feel free to check on it. But I'm assuming like every bondsman isn't covered for no million motherfucking dollars. So that's going to require some kind of surety. Some people got to sign for some shit, likely put up the fucking house and all types of other shit. So, you know, if this kid's family doesn't have these type of assets and shit, it's not like you just pay 10% to a bondsman and you're out for $1 million fucking dollars. You know what I'm saying? When it goes up that high. Yeah. So we'll see.
Exactly how this could happen and what led to the fatal stabbing. According to a police report, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony told a resource officer he was protecting himself when he stabbed 17-year-old Austin Metcalf once in the chest. The group of activists have said witnesses, including coaches, have tried to talk to police but were not interviewed by investigators. The group also said the Anthony family was receiving racially motivated threats. They say the Anthony family has asked them now to represent them. The group's leader, Dominic Alexander, says the meeting will focus on what they describe as growing threats against the Anthony family, which they say includes graphic, racist attacks and harassment on social media. They say this includes...
And I don't want to hear shit about harassment on social media. That shit is just going to happen. Of course, this shit went viral and all of that other shit. I don't like the fact that people are trying to turn this shit into some black versus white, red versus blue, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? We've seen it happen on the other side. We've seen people walk. We've seen people get 20 years on some stand your ground shit. Castle doctrine type shit, self-defense shit. We've seen it every which fucking way. And shit, we've seen it from people of multiple, you know what I'm saying, multiple different races and ethnicities. Both sides. Some people get locked the fuck up. Some people hot step out the courtroom with gator skins by lunchtime. It all depends on the case that somebody can, you know what I'm saying, that your lawyers can make. You know, I just don't like when they try to turn it into that shit. Liberal versus conservative, red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat, you know, blacks versus whites. I'm like, yo, this is pretty fucking basic, you know, as far as that's concerned. Like, understand what the facts are. At this point, we got to let the law sort this shit out. You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind talking, you know, if anybody's got any real like legal expertise, you know, feel free to come up, you know, talk to us about that. What up, Kendra? You know, but I know my opinion on it. I'm like, yo, this is just my opinion. This shit is self-defense, and I don't give a damn what your skin tone is. Once a motherfucker puts their hands on somebody, just like I showed the video earlier with old boy getting shot a few times after putting somebody on the, you know, pushing somebody to the ground, I felt just like the damn deputy sheriffs at first. They're like, yo, this is fucking self-defense. You push somebody, hey, they do what the fuck they got to do. Don't push people. You know, people are like, oh, he only did it because he was white. I'm like, yo, fuck, bro, don't be putting your hands on people, bro. Give a fuck what their skin tone is or what yours is. Keep your hands to yourself. And this won't happen. Or maybe it will, but it's less likely if you keep your hands to yourself. You just go around fucking hitting on people. People with weapons are more likely to use them. Like, you raise the likelihood of getting stabbed or shot or some shit like that when you're hitting on people. I'm just saying. I mean, hey, like I said, I want to know when it's okay to just put your hands on somebody. Like, I know people are like, yo, this is excessive. I want to know when the fuck it's okay to put your hands on somebody, and when is it okay to defend yourself? Like, what do you have to allow someone to do to you in order to be able to defend yourself with whatever you have to use to defend yourself? I'm just saying.
Home address being distributed as well. Now, the group says they will address the media to talk about what was discussed in that meeting and what happens next. That press briefing set for the noon hour. Live in Dallas, Larry Collins, NBC5.
Yeah. So let's go to this right here. Get this shit off the screen. All right. So this is the go. Well, give, send, go. Shine brightly for Carmelo Anthony here. Thousands of dollars have been raised for Carmelo Anthony. It's close to $200,000 right now. That's a 17-year-old accused of stabbing and unaliving a fellow teenager at a track meet last week, and his family continues to defend him. A give, send, go set up by the boy's close relatives has garnered, as of Monday morning, okay, this is yesterday morning, $155,848. After Carmelo's father, Andrew, stated last week, Carmelo was not the aggressor in the April 2nd tragedy that resulted in the deletion of Austin Metcalf. All right. The Anthonys stated in the fundraiser, their goal was to get $200,000 to help defend Carmelo, as they believe the narrative being spread about the boy is false, unjust, and harmful. All right. As a family of faith, they wrote, "We are deeply grateful for all of your support during this trying period. Your prayers and assistance mean more to us now more than ever." Okay. Anthony, a student at Frisco Centennial High School, is currently facing one charge of first-degree felony unaliving after he allegedly stabbed Metcalf, a Frisco Memorial High School athlete, while the two were in a tiff over a seat at the University Interscholastic League's District 11-5A Championship in Frisco, Texas. Metcalf's twin brother alleged Carmelo got aggressive and talked reckless before grabbing a knife. Andrew, however, told the New York Post his son was not the one who started it. Okay. So Andrew is that's Carmelo Anthony's father, Andrew Anthony. All right. Everyone has already made their assumptions about my son, Andrew said, but he's not what they're making him out to be. He works 2 jobs. He's an A student, has a 3.7 GPA. The fuck the kid working 2 jobs for? Goddamn. I needed a GoFundMe to fix that shit. All right. Yeah, he's got a 3.7 GPA. Anthony currently remains behind bars, though his attorney, Derek Walpole, told told a TV station he is requesting a hearing to lower the $1 million bond. Metcalf's family, meanwhile, has also launched a fundraiser that has garnered over $250,000 in donations since the incident. Okay, so that's the Metcalfs. All right. So they got $250,000 in donations since their son is gone. And like I said, again, my condolences to that family. Heart goes out to all of them. I couldn't imagine outliving a child, and my heart goes out to anybody that does. Outliving a child. That shit is fucked up. Like extremely. So, I figured y'all wanted to get the conversation going because everybody had something to say. Oh, KP, yeah, feel free to come up, bro. I'll hang out up here for a little bit longer. I said I was going to give it a few hours. Why did he have a knife in his school bag at a school event? That's what I mean. That, of course, he's not supposed to have that shit under any circumstances. What up, Jay Wills? He's not supposed to have that. But at the same time, since he does have it, if he is, in fact, defending himself, yeah, there might be a charge for concealing a weapon. Maybe even assault with a deadly weapon, something like that. But, if it's self-defense, you can kind of use whatever the fuck is in your vicinity. That's what I thought. But What's up, James?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm chilling, man.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get the conversation going because I know it's like a lot of gray area, with this right here.
Yeah, well, to me, it's a big gray area. I watched another one that was reading a police report, and it makes it even more confusing than what it is. And he's a self-defense lawyer and stuff, and he was playing two different sides to the story. One that's in favor and one's that's opposed. And to me, I don't know. I'm on the fence. There's not enough evidence to prove either way.
That's why I said this one's up to the attorneys.
Yeah, well,
for the most part, I know they don't make the decision, but they end up deciding it.
That's true. And I personally, I feel sorry for both sides. And again, like I put in the comments, keep your hands to yourself, and shit like this don't happen.
Or at least it's less likely. At least it's less likely.
Right. Well,
anybody can be the victim of a senseless act of violence, but I agree with you there. It's a lot less likely when you're not hitting on people. People with weapons are more likely to use them when somebody's hitting on them, they don't want to be hit, or they're being touched on, they don't want to be touched. Real shit.
Well, that's true. And then one of the other things that everybody's wanting to bring up, well, he shouldn't have the knife there. Why? When I went to school, we had our guns with us. We had knives with us. So
that's not cool though. You ain't supposed to bring a firearm to school. I'm just saying, I always had a knife. I was taught be prepared. That was rule number one as a Boy Scout. So I didn't leave the house without a pocket knife. Every boy had a pocket knife when I was coming up. But
but you got to remember,
rarely did somebody get stabbed at track meets though. So
well, that's true, but you got to remember, I'm almost 62 years old. Back in the late 70s and 80s and stuff like that, you didn't have all this kind of shit that was going on. You know what I mean? And then the area that I lived in, we always did a bunch of hunting and stuff. So we always had that stuff with us, but we wasn't out, trying to, shoot each other either like this, and it just seems like it just keeps getting worse and worse as the years go on, until we're into this. But again, him bringing a knife to school, how big of a knife?
That's what I mean. Nobody, I don't think they released that, the size of the knife or a picture of it or anything like that. I'm assuming this will probably be like a televised trial or something like that. So we'll probably get to see all that shit.
Yeah, well, maybe. The only issue that I have is that, he now that he's wanting to claim, self-defense, which I don't have a problem with somebody doing that. Don't ever get me understand what I'm trying to say, is that it's almost like he hid the knife when he found a cop, or the cops found him, whatever it was, but also being that young, I can also understand, that something happened, but you don't want to stand around and wait for it. And especially the way it is now, you end up with a crowd coming around you when something like this happens. And then you end up yourself getting more hurt than what you should have. So, that's why I'm saying, the evidence is, there's got to be more evidence and stuff for me to make any kind of decision about this.
I agree. But how much more evidence do you need though, James? Think about it.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be more discussions or investigations into what he said and what the other guy said, stuff like that, and the other witnesses. and you know what they saw and stuff. So there's still a lot of stuff that can come out about what went on.
Yeah. What's up, Kendra? We got Harley Quinn
How you
in the
doing,
building.
Auntie? What's up,
What's good? What's
James?
good, Kendra?
I don't know who else is on the
Hey,
panel.
Kendra.
KP. I just had questions. Like, I've heard of the story and seen bits and parts on it, but I don't know like the full details. But my question is, from my understanding, it was a track meet and there was a tent of the team's tent, and the boy had walked into the tent where it was just the team members, so he clearly didn't belong there. And somebody had said he might have been from the opposing team or something, and he was taunting them or something. And he was asked to leave, and then this is how it happened. But so, what were you doing under that tent in the first place?
Okay, so
What
I'll
was
tell
your
you.
purpose?
I mean, I could pull it up. I've seen it. There was a downpour. It was raining, so everybody kind of curled.
Okay.
Kind of grouped underneath this tent.
Took shelter wherever you could. Yeah. Okay.
It was raining, so it was kind of like everybody that was on those bleachers and shit tried to get up underneath that tent.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, but that's what it said in the report, that there was a downpour. And people suck refuge from the elements.
Because my question would have been, was he there looking for trouble in the first place by going under the tent and going in there?
And he's got a knife and
that.
shit like that. That's what I was saying. I'm like, okay, you're behind enemy lines, already. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. It's not a Texas football game, but it's still, you know what I'm saying? It's sports. So, like, you don't go there. It is what it is. But, I mean, okay, so when is it okay to defend yourself? I'm just being real, because he gets pushed. He gets pushed. That's when he pulls out the knife. So,
all right, so that makes more sense with it raining and everything. I just thought that he had entered the tent like looking for a problem initially, but that makes more sense. And my next question is, there was no faculty around, there was no coaches, no parents, nothing around?
That's the thing. Like, these kids come up talking about move, or like on some Black Panther shit, you move or you will be moved type shit. I'm like, it's like, why don't you go call it, faculty, if he's really not supposed to be over there? Like, I get it. It's supposed to be, I don't know. It's just a sensitive situation. It just is. I'm sorry. There's a loss of life.
It's terrible. Well, it's a loss of 2 lives, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, one might walk, but this is going to be a while. What up, KP? KP from KC. I know he wanted to add something.
And even then, if it was something that was a self-defense, or, you just were trying to defend yourself, you didn't intend to kill somebody. I mean, he has to live with that guilt and live with that on his shoulders for the rest of his life, too. The whole thing is just terrible. It's sad.
I mean, I don't think that was the intent. It's like one stab, but you don't, I mean, kid's not a doctor, so he's not a doctor, and he's damn sure not a trained merc or anything, so he doesn't know what the fuck is going to happen,
Right.
You stab somebody, you hear the bad news later.
Yep.
No, that's kind of what it is. KP, you're on mute, bro.
Right, I'm gonna hop down. I just wanted to ask that because I wasn't.
No, I appreciate it. No, it was that's what the report said, was that there was a downpour. So everybody was kind of seeking refuge underneath the tent.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if it's a downpour, it's understandable for other people to go into other people's tents, because I've seen it before, because my sons didn't track. But the altercation doesn't make any sense. Meaning that I'm sitting here because it's raining, and this person says something to me, basically saying I'm under the wrong tent. And after that, touch me and see what happens, or is that what I read the report?
It's like, hey, move. You need to move. You don't belong here. You don't go here. We don't fuck with you type shit. Okay. Hey, touch me and see what happens. Because I mean, for him to say that, you got to feel some kind of aggression or hostility. So for him to say, touch me and see what happens, I think we'll all agree on that. And then the kid pushed him. Well, they said he reached, simultaneously, or he had like a hand in his bag. He says, "Touch me and see what happens." The kid, proceeds to call the bluff and realize the kid wasn't bluffing.
Yeah, so. This is the thing though. That's gonna be the thing that hurts the most is that him having a knife, but they haven't showed us what the weapon looks like. But from what I'm gathering, somebody was saying yesterday that was from that area, basically in Frisco. They was basically saying the kid had a Michael Myers size knife.
They said that?
Hey, that's what I'm Auntie, so this
Did they show a picture
of
the knife or something? Because I didn't get those dimensions.
Okay, hold on, Auntie. Here it is. Big West said it yesterday. Big West said it yesterday on Fantastic's panel when we was talking about it. And hold on, I'm only just telling you this because he lives in Dallas. So he said his little brother or somebody he knows was at the school track meet. So I'm just giving you a little feeling. So, but I'm thinking to myself, if that kid had that size of a knife, he can forget about it, bro. He can forget
that's the type you don't even, you don't have to twist it. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to twist it. You don't have to, like he said, he just stabbed him one time.
Yeah,
and the motherfucker just goes to leaking. So, usually if you got a pocket knife, you know what I'm saying, a 3-inch, 4-inch blade, whatever, you know what I'm saying, you put that shit in, motherfucker will drip. Like, you barely even bleed. Unless a motherfucker twists the shit. Yeah, because the knife is just to make, it's like a box cutter. It's just to make an incision. You know what I'm saying? It's not you know what I'm saying, skin or any of that other shit. It's just to make an incision. You know what I'm saying? The pocket knife that we grew up carrying. You know? So that's why I was like, damn, how the fuck you didn't twist the motherfucker and that bitch just bled out right there? Like right there? You know? So that's what they're saying. He had some Rambo knife.
Yeah, they're saying the knife was pretty big. And if the knife was that big, man, and you just pulled that out, that's tough, bro. He's not gonna be able to beat that. I don't think he's gonna beat it anyway. I think at the end of the day, he's gonna do a lot of time. At least for
that's what a lot of folks are saying. I
think he's gonna do time for manslaughter, bro. At least that.
Involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be involuntary.
Well, I know a kid.
It might be like second degree, but involuntary.
Well, yeah, most likely. I think that's what. There was a gal that I was going with when I lived up in Portland, and her son, and the son, he stabbed his father with like a kitchen knife, and like you said, it was a one-time deal, bled out right there. So I mean, he got 12 years for it, but he pled out on it.
Yeah, I think this is going to end up being a plea because you heard
this kid is not playing.
In the beginning.
No, this kid is not taking a plea, bro. Hell no.
Well, let's think, Ed. Let's just say if he does plea, because they said
you got to take this shit to trial.
Well, they said they can give him 5 to 99 years. If he's in Frisco, Texas, I'm gonna be honest. Frisco, Texas is right up at the beginning of Texas when you first come in. If you first come in the top of Texas, Frisco is at the top by McKinney. So Frisco is
clear up there by 40 40, I think it is.
Yeah, Frisco is right there by McKinney at the top. So Frisco is right by where the Dallas Cowboys practice facility is or whatever. Very nice area, whatever. But if they're saying what they're saying, and he takes it to jury trial, imagine the amount of this almost sounds like you know what this almost sounds like, guys? If y'all ever seen this movie, this almost sounds like A Time to Kill or something, right? It's given a racially charged. It's going to be a really racially charged in that city.
That's what I don't like, because I don't think this is like black and white. I think this is.
That's where they about to take.
Yeah, and that's just what I don't like. That's why I wanted to kind of get the conversation going, because I don't think this is a racial thing, because I done seen it happen on multiple different sides, like both ways. You know what I'm saying? Black folks defend themselves, You know what I'm saying? Some of them get off. Some of them end up having to do time. You just seen white folks, you know what I'm saying, stand their ground, whatever. Some of them get off. Some of them do time.
Yeah, some of those
You know?
stand your ground tenure
Like,
don't
and
go the way
you
people
see,
think they're gonna go.
I've seen it with people of multiple different races, ethnicities, and shit
I
like
have
that.
too.
So
Yep.
this is kind of just like this shit happens in America.
Right.
You know, like that's why I don't like when and this is such a bang situation like that. They just like I said, like 30 seconds, dog. It's quick, and you're dealing with kids, so nobody's really thinking.
Yeah,
You
you're
know?
dealing with
Nobody's
teenagers.
thinking.
Teenagers. Yeah, they're
Right.
teenagers, man. So they're not the same as developed adults with the consequences.
Exactly.
So
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm sure, you know, the Metcalf, you know, he's not thinking. He's sitting there with, you know what I'm saying, he thinking he on top of the world. You're a football player, you got your twin brother there, y'all the biggest, baddest in school, you know, linebacker, all of that, you know what I'm saying, most valuable player, whatever. I said move, kid. You know, we stuff kids like you in lockers, whatever. You know, you just moving about. And this kid just rolling around with a damn knife at a track meet behind enemy lines, ready to pop off. You know?
I got to jump down, Annie, but
No, that's all
nice
good.
talking to you.
Thanks for coming up, James. I appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate you, big dog. Yeah, I'm just like, it's clearly, you know, children, because as grown men, we know that these situations, these things can happen at any given moment, on any given day, at any given time. So we try to make sure that we don't go in, you know what I'm saying, we don't go off in these situations. Like, this is our right as Americans to fucking bear arms and protect ourselves and all of that other shit. But because of that, you don't go around hitting on people. And also, you don't put yourself in situations where you might have to be forced to defend yourself. You keep those situations to a minimum. So it's rough.
you know what? I know this is probably not the first time.
What do you think about $1 million bond, though? Say what?
I think with the $1 million bond, so they got to come up with 10%, right? And what I put in
I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, so that's with a standard bail bondsman, but a bondsman has to be covered for that amount. You know, because you come up with 10%, that's the fee that just goes to the bondsman. You know, you don't get that back once you pay that 10% to a bondsman. You don't get that back. You feel me? That's how the bondsman makes his money. You know, they just put up the money, and if you don't, you know what I'm saying, if you don't go, whatever, if you don't go to court, they stick a bounty hunter on your ass. But, you know, for the most part, you don't get that back. But for $1 million, most bondsmen aren't going to cover $1 million. You're going to need like sureties and shit. You know, you're going to need people to sign off on that shit and put up some shit as collateral.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're going to need, because if that were the case, if all he needed was 10%, that boy would be out right now. They done raised 150,000 already.
Yeah, I thought it was 200-something thousand that they had or something.
No, they said 200 something thousand for the slain boy, Metcalf. You know, for his family, they got $250,000, and of course for his defense. But I'm like, even in a situation like this, I'm like, yo, if I'm that boy's father, I'm like, you might want to sit here for another month. I don't like you in no cage or none of that other stuff. You know, and we'll do everything we can to get you out, but we got to pay for these damn attorneys, man. You know, you want the best lawyers money can buy. So
yeah, so this is going to be a tough one. I just don't like the fact that a lot
you're gonna want a C note for your legal team for this shit, at least.
Yeah, they're going to need all the money they can get. But looking at it from my point of view, I just don't like that everybody's turning it into a racial thing when we don't even know it. They said the kids didn't even know each other, so they didn't know each other. And then it's like the adults are turning it into racial, and it's drawing a racial line that doesn't need to be drawn. It just needs to be laid out. When we see the evidence, then we get to go from there. But most people's already picking their side before even waiting for the evidence. They just picking a side.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to get as much as I could just to kind of understand the situation. Multiple witnesses said pretty much that's what it was. He had his hand in his bag. Most of the time, you know, like he reached in his bag once he was approached, you know, by the dude and his brother. I guess he was approached by a dude and his brother. I'm not going to say that he was approached by both of them at the same time, but he was approached by Austin and his brother was behind him or whatever. You know?
Right.
Behind him,
Yeah,
not far away. You know what I'm
you
saying?
know what,
Under,
Auntie? You know what I like in this too? Think about this, because you know sports rivalries or whatever. So sports teams. This is the thing that you see online all the time now, and you see adults fighting at sports games over their teams, right? And these are adults that are usually under the influence of some substance, whether it be alcohol, weed, or whatever. And what I do is this. I choose not to go to sporting events like that because I already know if I'm not under the influence and these other people are around me, that puts you in an environment that you don't want to be in because you can't control that many people. So the thing that's intriguing to me is, okay, now that I found out he went under the tent because of the rain, that makes sense. But if he went under that tent with the intent to just start something, that's totally different.
No, they said it was that's official.
No,
it was a downpour.
it was
that's
because of
why
the rain.
everybody's
It was
under
because of the rain.
the tent.
Yeah, because of the rain.
So
it makes it totally
it's
different.
multi. There are going to be some people under the tent anyway, but now that it's raining, everybody's trying to kind of crunch
you're
up,
gonna run
curl
up
up
under
in
the
that
tent, and you just let everybody in when that happens. Yeah, that's kind of how that goes as a normal human being. You know what I'm saying? So, but man, this is gonna be a doozy, man. They're gonna turn.
I'm just like
they're gonna turn this out on the news, man, for a long time.
I mean, like I say, I don't like the whole racial thing that people are trying to do. Like I say, it's liberal versus conservative, it's red versus blue, it's this versus. I'm like, yo, at the end of the day, there's no firearm that's used, so leave the NRA out of this shit. And gun laws and all of the other shit. If anything, you're just gonna need stricter rules at these damn track meets and sporting events, even at the high school level and shit. High school level, middle school level, whatever. Metal detectors, no bags, shit like that. It's deep. Because I remember even when I went to my son's graduation, I couldn't we couldn't bring gift bags and shit like that in there.
And you know what else this creates too for us as fans or parents or grandparents of kids, because we're getting into an age, because I'm 41, but we're getting into an age where now no matter where you go, there's gonna be a pat down and all of that type of deal, metal detector. So like, cause I go to these events, man, I go to track meets, and you just pay for your ticket and you just walk in. They don't really pat you down or nothing like that. But me and you can remember a time when we went to high school games and we didn't get patted down. But
hell no, we came with all the shit. Yeah.
Now you pretty much get patted down everywhere you go, and then when you get to the airport, you got to go through all of that too. So,
you heard what James just said. When I was growing up, we used to come with our pistols and shit.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying. So now, we're essentially creating our own police state as Americans, because that's what they're gonna beg for, Auntie. You know they are.
I'm like, they're going to have to. I think this is one of those cases that might just clearly define what self-defense is. Like for real, it'll be one of those, the state of Texas versus Carmelo Anthony.
And
something that they just reference every time there's a self-defense case.
I'm gonna say this, and this is kind of loony, but last week they just announced that Carmelo Anthony, that we know, was going into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and then it seems like the next day this happened.
Yeah, this is Carmelo Anthony with a K.
Carmelo Anthony with a K will overshadow the only Carmelo we ever knew until last week. Like, this is going to be the most famous Carmelo Anthony in the world.
I'm not going to go that far.
The way they about to
this will come and go. This will come and go.
It'll come and go.
Like regardless of the outcome, man, you know how it is. We'll go on to the next topic.
It'll come and go, but it's just something that's like, wow. It's just overshadowing what he did for 20 years in the NBA or whatever, and he just gets elected to the Hall of Fame, and now all you talking about is a murder case.
No, I mean it's a shame, Like I say, it's a shame. It's just a shame, but man. So look, some people, they show some of those damn donations. Some people have doubled down on 1,000, 2,000 here and there. Like, there are a lot of folks that believe, like, yo, that kid was he was standing up to bullies. Some are saying he was standing up to bullies. He was defending himself. Others are saying, yo, this is a senseless deletion. That's why I said this is such a gray area.
It's a gray area case for a long time.
And to be honest, I've talked to a few young people, teenagers, and they're like, hell nah, man, this shouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying, bro. Like, just imagine, like, your kid going to high school track and you're not able to make it there that day because you're at work because it's during the daytime. And it's at the daytime, and you're like, okay, everything should be cool on a daytime track meet. You're not tripping.
Yeah, you're going to the school.
You're not thinking about this. Like, it just makes no sense, bro. It should have never happened. Should have never happened.
And now what do we do? Hold up. Let me pull up the facts with this shit. Because like I said, it's a lot of shit involved with this. Hold up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. It's a total of almost $500,000 raised altogether, for both families. It's like, damn, bro. But it's really like no amount of money that makes this type of shit right. It says after an altercation, the track meet left one teen dead and another under arrest. The family of the alleged attacker, who purportedly told police, "I'm not alleged, I did it," after the incident, says the accusations against him are false, unjust, and harmful. The statement comes as part of a fundraiser through Give, Send, Go, set up by the family of Carmelo Anthony, 17 years old, who is being held on a charge of first-degree deletion after the death of Austin Metcalf on April the 2nd. Hold up, let me bring this shit up. All right. At the time of this publication, the fundraiser has amassed more than $150,000. His defense attorney confirmed that Anthony is claiming the deletion was in self-defense. That's what I'm saying. I don't see a plea coming, bro, at all. They're going to fight this. If that's what the attorney's saying, they think they got a case for it, bro. Says, I don't have any reason to disbelieve that. This is what the attorney says. I don't have any reason to disbelieve that, but I need to develop facts, talk to people, and figure out what's going on before I make any statements about what I think happened. He told the outlet, I don't have any reason to think it wasn't self-defense at this time. Walpole, that's his attorney, has requested a hearing next week to try to lower Anthony's $1 million bond. The suspect is currently being held in Collin County Jail. All right. So, as far as the details regarding the arrest, when police arrived on the scene, they reported in their arrest affidavit that Anthony allegedly confessed to his involvement in Metcalf's death right away. I was protecting myself, he said. Per the probable cause affidavit seen by people, officers reported that he was fully cooperative as he was taken off the field for questioning. One detail in the report came with one officer reportedly referred to Anthony as an alleged suspect. To this, the teen allegedly responded, "I'm not alleged, I did it." Officers wrote that Anthony became emotional as they led him to a police vehicle, telling them per the affidavit, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to." The affidavit also states that the suspect at that moment made another spontaneous statement and asked if what happened could be considered self-defense. Says here Anthony was emotional and crying hysterically when he was being taken from the venue by police. He reportedly asked police if Metcalf was going to be okay. As far as Metcalf's death, Anthony and Metcalf were both at Kuykendall Stadium on April the 2nd at 10 a.m. when the altercation occurred. Per a press release from Frisco Police Department, according to local CBS affiliate KBTX, there were nearly 30 student witnesses to the event, names redacted on documents seen by the outlet, as well as half a dozen coaches. The alleged attack happened during an event involving 5 different Texas schools. One witness told police, per the affidavit viewed by Law and Crime, that the tragic incident began when Metcalf told Anthony that he couldn't sit under the tent where he was and needed to move to another part of the bleachers. Anthony was reportedly sitting in a section allocated for Memorial High School students. He was a student at Centennial High School. The witness told police that he was asked to move by Metcalf. Anthony allegedly reached into his bag and replied, "Touch me and see what happens." The witness said that Metcalf then did touch Anthony, pushing him per KXAS, at which point the suspect allegedly prodded Metcalf to punch him per Law and Crime. I'm actually going to pull up the Law and Crime clip so they can explain all this shit. At this point, according to the witness, Metcalf grabbed Anthony and the suspect stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. Police reported finding the weapon in the bleachers. All right, the news reports that Metcalf grabbed his chest after the stabbing, per the affidavit, as he lay dying in his twin brother's arms. Reports that police arrived to find coaches and trainers performing CPR and other life-saving measures on the victim. All right, Anthony's father, Andrew, said that his son was provoked, telling the outlet he was not the aggressor. He was not the one who started it. He works 2 jobs. He's an A student and has a 3.7 GPA. Yeah, none of that shit is going to matter when it comes to this case. But maybe it will. I don't know. But I don't see how that fucking matters. But everyone has already made their assumptions about my son. He's not what they're making him out to be. He continues sharing his own sympathy for Metcalf's family. I feel bad for the other parents and family, and words can't explain how both people have been affected by this tragedy. Metcalf's family also started a fundraiser. They got $250,000. All right. They say their son was a leader of men. His smile would light up a room. His passion for football was unbelievable. He was voted team MVP. He had a 4.0 GPA. His commitment, dedication to leadership, and sheer grit made him rise to the level of success that he had desired. His twin brother, Hunter, played beside him. We will all remember him for the way he impacted others' lives. I love you forever, son. It's not goodbye. It's see you later. Yeah, this is rough. So, Metcalf's father said, "I feel for the family, because now their son will end up in prison and learn that he deleted somebody, and he devastated and deleted my son, who can never get back, who I can never get back. It's unfortunate for everyone involved," which I agree with wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I agree with that statement as well.
So yeah, that's definitely some rough shit, man. Hold up, what else I got here? We got the Law and Crime shit. Oh yeah. See what we got here.
Now, this kid was sitting under our tent at track. We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." He's like, "Make me move." Also grabbed his backpack. The kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab.
Video from WFAA in Texas. Tragedy at a track meet. A teenage football life cut short. His family says he died in his twin brother's arms. The suspect, according to police, was a fellow high school athlete who allegedly brought a knife to a track meet and changed so many lives, allegedly, in the course of doing so. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. It is hard to make sense of this story, and just wait until I tell you what the suspect in this case reportedly has told police about an alleged murder that happened in the middle of the week at a high school track meet in the middle of the day in Texas. This is Austin Metcalf. His family says he died in his twin brother's arms after he was stabbed at this track meet in Frisco, Texas, near Dallas. He was 17 years old, and his future on the field and in life was so bright. He was a junior at Memorial High School. He played football there. His dad says last season he was team MVP, and he had a 4.0 GPA in the classroom. According to his X account, he was getting looks to play at the next level and by some big schools. Here he is at a recruiting event for the Arkansas Razorbacks. They play in the SEC. If you know college football, that is as big as it gets. He was a multi-sport athlete, and he was also on his high school's track team, which is who he was competing for on April 2nd at this stadium in his hometown of Frisco, about 40 minutes from Dallas. And if you've ever run track, you know these meets, there's a lot of downtime in between the events. Each team typically has its own spot to hang out, and Austin was reportedly under a tent with his teammates when rain started falling on Wednesday. KXAS TV in Dallas has the police report that states that the suspect, who goes to a different high school, was under Metcalf's team's tent, and he was told to move. Witnesses say the suspect then unzipped a bag. He reaches in and told Metcalf, quote, "Touch me and see what happens." That's when witnesses say Austin Metcalf got up and grabbed the suspect, who then allegedly took out a knife and stabbed Austin in the chest. Austin's twin brother told WFAA TV this.
And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." He's like, "Make me move." Also grabbed his backpack. The kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest.
Metcalf's family says that Austin died in his brother's arms. Here's a picture of the boys with their dad. This is the suspect. His name is Carmelo Anthony. He is facing a charge of murder. He is being held on $1 million bond. Even though I'm using the term alleged in this story because all defendants, all suspects are innocent until proven guilty, Anthony reportedly is not using that term. He told police, quote, "I'm not alleged, I did it." That is according to the arrest warrant obtained by KXAS TV. And according to the warrant, Anthony appears to think that he was in the right for allegedly killing Metcalf, claiming self-defense. We'll get into why his self-defense argument may not work in court in just a moment.
Carmelo Anthony, class of 2025, Centennial High School, Frisco, Texas.
Anthony was also a football player. This was him mic'd up for a tournament that was posted on YouTube, and he linked to it on his X account. Anthony's high school was just about 7 miles from where Metcalf went to high school. It appears up until Wednesday, August 2nd, Anthony had somewhat of a bright future as well, as social media shows that he was getting offers to play college football. At least his social media claimed that. Like these Division III schools in Texas and Louisiana, and this small school in Kansas. On Huddle, which is a social media site for football recruits, he wrote, quote, "God has shown you the right path, just take it." That was in his bio. Now he's facing the possibility of never being on a football field again, or frankly being a free person ever again, because he is charged with murder. We saw a user write to him on X saying, quote, "Ruined your whole future, dude." Now, if the allegations are true, if he's convicted, frankly, the only future that truly matters in this story is that of Austin Metcalf, a future that was ended, and the future of his family and how they heal after what happened at this track meet on Wednesday this week. Austin's dad has a GoFundMe page. It has raised nearly $200,000. At the time of this recording, the page includes pictures of Austin, his dad, and his twin brother from when they were young. His dad writes, quote, "He was a leader of men. His smile would light up the room. His passion for football was unbelievable. And it's hard not to get emotional looking at this picture of a dad and his sons just fishing, looking out at the water at a pond, and to think of everything that was taken away by an alleged decision this week. On that GoFundMe page, his dad finishes by saying, quote, "We will all remember him for the way he impacted others' lives. I love you forever, son. It's not goodbye. It's see you later. God will take care of us till we meet again. RIP. Love, Dad." Austin's last post on social media was on March 31st. He wrote on X, quote, "Faith that God got me and my work will pay off." Join us now to talk about this case. It certainly has a lot.
Yeah, I'm on the Law and Crime Network, so it does sound a little bit biased, but that's the way they're going to be. They're going to you're going to have some supposed reporters on here that kind of lean toward the prosecution side, and then you're going to have analysts that lean toward the defense side, because they're all supposed to be lawyers. So we'll see what goes on.
A lot of people talking is trial attorney Bridget Williams, who joins us from Dallas, Texas. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know that this has been headline news in your city since it happened earlier this week. At this point, what are some of the questions that you have based off the information that we've been able to get so far?
Well, one, thank you so much for having me. I would say some of the questions that are running through my mind is just like, what is it that caused such a dispute to happen in the first place? What is it that could have caused it to have led to this in the first place? And also, just I feel like there needs to be some type of just education for individuals for what is it that is self-defense? What is it that it really means for self-defense? Because in a situation like this,
that's what I've been saying. I'm like, cause self-defense is some bang bang shit. Like, it's bang bang, it's quick. It's quick. You don't have time to interpret the law and all of that other shit when it's either defend yourself or it's not defend yourself. Like, what the fuck is self-defense? And do you have time? Usually in a situation where you have to use self-defense, it's quick. All of these analytics and shit, most folks you don't have time to go through all of this shit. So, trust me, if it takes us this much time to sort it out with the law, how the fuck are you supposed to sort it out in a half of a second that it takes, the half of a second that it takes for a life and death situation, to occur? So, I don't know.
This escalated.
But I agree with that. Like, at some point, man, we need to clearly define what the fuck is considered self-defense. Because as far as I'm concerned, self-defense is, then this is just as far as I'm concerned. I am not a legal professional. I'm not a legal expert. I am not qualified to give anyone any legal fucking advice or even legal commentary. When it comes to that, this is all a matter of opinion. I believe that self-defense is whatever the fuck you say it is once you feel as though you are in danger. That's self-defense. But that's just my opinion on it. I know it varies depending on what court you're in, what state you're in, what the situation is and all types of other shit. But, that's just the way I see it. So I'm like, if somebody, pushing you, to the ground, isn't like you being provoked. If that's not provocation, what the fuck is? I heard some people saying, oh, well, he didn't strangle him. He didn't actually punch him. He didn't do that. I was like, what the fuck are you supposed to wait for somebody to fucking punch you? Like, come on. Come on. When you're defending yourself is to keep from being harmed. You're not supposed to wait until somebody's harming you to defend yourself. So, like I said, it's a serious gray area.
So quickly, from one person thinking that he was defending himself, and in fact, he wasn't.
Bridget, you bring up a good point, because I think it can be a very delicate part of these conversations and stories we cover to say that there was more than one life that was damaged in events like this, because there's nothing worse than what the Metcalf family went through. They will never see their son ever again. And then you look at this suspect and there's questions about why you would even bring a knife to a track meet or anything like that. But how do you how do you balance that? And maybe it isn't even balancing it. I struggle with it to say, the idea that Carmelo Anthony, he had college offers to go play football, and then this decision on this day, April 2nd, at a track meet over something that probably at the end of the day never mattered at all. He likely could spend the rest of his life behind bars, and his family, who might have thought that they had a future college football player in their house, now very well may end up for the majority of their lives having to go visit him in a prison.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Something like this that just evolved and snowballed, that's what it seems like to me, snowballed over something that may have just been some high school students getting into some type of disagreement. And so the issue is that once that disagreement again begins to snowball, what is appropriate for self-defense? Whenever we're into just a oral disagreement, then that transfers over to a physical disagreement. How does it transfer then to a knife? And so, and under Texas law, you have to provide equal or lesser value, generally, so force, whenever we're talking about self-defense. Is it reasonable?
Now, I'm going to get back into her commentary in a minute. I'm actually going to spin it back about 10 seconds, right? But I like the way she said, Texas state law. Now, I brought up some incidents in Florida because I'm a little more familiar with Florida because I'm in Florida. But Texas state law, like, this is really about what the state of Texas considers that shit. Yep. So I don't know. I'm going to have to do some more homework on this right here. And this looks like it's something that we will continue to report on without a doubt. But let's go back into her commentary.
Texas law, you have to provide equal or lesser value, generally, so force, whenever we're talking about self-defense. Is it reasonable and is it proportionate to that of what the perpetrator initiated before? Because in this situation, the suspect is saying he told the other person, pretty much, don't touch me. And that person did, in fact, touch him, and then he pulled out a knife. So yes, maybe there was some issues there where we talked about physical altercations, but that doesn't give you the right or the responsibility to respond back with a knife. It has to be reasonable and proportionate.
How do, once you get to a trial portion, actually be able to figure that out? Of, you'll have what he will say, and let's say if he goes with the self-defense argument when we get to that point, but then you're going to have witnesses that will lay out the narrative. And how do you get to the point where you figure out, okay, this is what people are saying what happened, and then this is the law, and you merge the two together to figure out what the appropriate punishment should be?
Yeah, I think that actually starts way before a trial setting. That would start really in the discovery aspect. So when we are looking through the discovery, and we'll be able to see what are the affidavits from each of the witnesses stating, what did the actual suspect himself state, because he made statements that were not where someone asked him any questions. He volunteered statements. And so all of that information is used even prior to trial. And so the state will be using that, all of those things combined in what we call totality of the circumstances, to offer him some type of offer punishment range. And so that is, I think it starts way before trial. It starts way before that. And so, and the state will again make an offer based off of all of those issues combined.
In a lot of these cases where someone makes a self-defense argument, and I feel like I don't even understand when these cases come up from state to state, where you would think someone feels, hey, I feel threatened, I have this weapon on me. In this case, it was allegedly a knife. Some cases we see someone who has a firearm, and in that moment they make this decision and they say, hey, I was defending myself. And then, the police will say that's actually not what self-defense actually is. How common in the situations that you've dealt with in your career, is there just a complete lack of awareness from a suspect or a defendant about what actually is self-defense?
It happens more often than you think. Here in Texas now, most people are allowed to carry a gun or a firearm. So we all know that. However, when we do those things, we need to also be educating ourselves, especially students as well. And students, and I would say everyone, really needs to educate themselves on when it is appropriate for self-defense. So we have several cases I've seen in my career where someone may have brandished a firearm driving down the interstate, just showing someone else a firearm if someone may have cut them off on the interstate or something, and that is not allowed.
That's motherfucking road rage, man. That shit is out of bounds like a motherfucker, man. It is definitely out of bounds.
Like you cannot do that. You can be charged. And so I think just educating ourselves on what the law says self-defense is in combination with getting a firearm if you're going to get one, that is really important because you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself and then that you are making sure that you're doing everything proper so you won't be charged in something going down the line.
Yeah, I look at this case, very different situation, but like Daniel Penny in New York, who was the man on a subway who claimed self-defense when there was someone having a mental health episode and that person ends up losing their life. Of course, stand your ground laws in Florida are always a hot topic when a case comes up involving those. Why is it that it seems like from state to state, we have a difficult time across the board understanding what self-defense actually looks like?
It's difficult because every state has their own rules, right? So every state has a different set of self-defense rules. Just like you stated, in Florida, there's stand your ground laws. In Texas, we don't necessarily have that. So here in the state of Texas, again, self-defense has to be reasonable and it has to be appropriate for exactly what it is that the perpetrator or the other person initiated. And so the important thing to do is if you're going to be in a
that's what I'm talking about. When they say it has to be appropriate, do y'all understand how vague, broad, you know what I'm saying? How vague, broad, and just like, just gray that is. Like what's appropriate? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Hey, that's it. You got to take this shit to trial. This is a trial by your, you know what I'm saying, the jury of your peers. Straight the fuck up, man. Just a trial by jury. Like I said, the main thing that anybody should be just questioning, and that's something that I think we should have more discussions about. $1 million bond. Like, you feel me? Spirit, $1 million? $1 million? It's a lot. Hold up. You know what? Let me look this shit up. You know, requirements to post $1 million bond. All right, so real quick. All right. So to post $1 million bond in Texas, you'll likely need to provide a cash bond, a surety bond from a bondsman, or potentially pledge real property with sufficient equity, all subject to court approval. Right. So cash bond, you can provide the full amount, you know, 1 million, you know what I'm saying, the court in cash, cashier's check, or an irrevocable, you know, letter of credit. Now, bail bondsman. A bondsman can post bail on your behalf for a fee, typically 10% of the bond amount, but you'll still be responsible for the full amount if the defendant fails to appear. So maybe he can get out for 100. But he's gonna have to have a bondsman that could post the whole damn million, or that's good for it. Hold up. All right, so it's saying, yeah, typically 10%, but pledging property requirements, which bond conditions. You do need sufficient equity, you know, in property that has to at least be equal to the bail amount. court-ordered conditions. Depending on the criminal charge, the judge may set bond conditions such as curfews, violence counseling, or substance abuse counseling, or require the defendant to wear a GPS monitoring system, of course. Wow. We'll see. I mean, if you post 10%, that shit's gone. That shit's gone. The bondsman has to sign for that shit if you post 10%. That's the bondsman's fee. Usually, 10%. You show up. The bondsman gets what they posted back, but they keep your 10% the whole time. Usually bond, you get it back. You show up to court. But $1 million bond, like, you're not gonna post that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna post that. Like, you would have to be a millionaire to post that shit. And it's going to require some type of surety. So somebody's going to have to sign off on that. And they're likely going to have to be, they're going to have some assets that back that shit too. Maybe not the whole million, but at least to handle that fee.
To inform yourself.
That's why I said it might be in their best interest, Bridget, to sit in that motherfucker for an extra month or so and let that let that fundraising account kind of grow a little bit, because you need that shit for legal fees. For real. You want the best lawyers money can buy for this type of shit. For real. Because this ain't one of them pro bono cases. It's just not. Because there's no payout.
About the laws of that particular state. Ignorance of the law is not a defense. It never is. It never will be. And so you have to make sure that you are informed in the best way possible, learning as much as possible as you can if you're going to be in a particular state. And so that way you'll know how to protect yourself.
This suspect, Carmelo Anthony, is being held on $1 million bond. He's been charged with murder. I'm sure you've had difficult conversations with people who have been charged with crimes they never thought that they would ever be charged with, people who are not career criminals. What are those conversations like?
Those conversations can sometimes be very difficult. We're having that conversation a lot of times with the actual client, so that could the defendant himself, but also their family, because this situation not only impacts just this one person, but it impacts their families and their lives for a very, very long time. So those conversations can be extremely difficult. This suspect being held on a $1 million bond is not uncommon. I think that is generally appropriate. In this specific city, Frisco, that is what we call Collin County, they are putting a bond in place because of the offense, right? So the nature of the offense, which is a murder case. Is he a danger to himself and to others? In a situation like this, you presented a knife at a physical altercation, you're a danger to others. And you could very well be a danger to yourself. And so I don't foresee a judge going down much lower on the bond. More than likely, his attorney will have a bond hearing asking the court to reduce that bond down if his family cannot afford to post that bond for him. But that would be the next steps for a defense attorney to try to set a bond hearing to try to get his bond reduced down. However, based on the nature of the offense and his danger, just status to community, to others, with something such of this magnitude, I don't foresee it going down much, much lower.
In cases when it comes to bond, because I know in some cases you might be able to get a bail bondsman and you only have to put down, I think in some states like 10%. I mean, 10%. Realistically, what 10%, what would his family have to put forward if he was to be released on bond ahead of trial?
Yeah, and that's up to him.
And that's why I like watching this, even though sometimes, they can seem a little bit biased. These are all questions that I ask, right then and there, like what they gonna have to put up, because I know it's not, just like he said, I know it's standard 10%, But for $1 million, you're gonna need more than just like $100K cash, motherfucker. Like for real, $1 million and manslaughter and motherfucking baby and all of that. Nah, man. When I say my baby, you know how it is, man. That's somebody's kid. They could possibly, for real. They're probably gonna need a little bit more than just some cash, unless they got it all. You know.
What 10%? What would his family have to put forward if he was to be released on bond ahead of trial?
Yeah, and that's up to him and his family. So here in Texas, you can do what's called a bail bond or a surety bond, where they can get a bail bondsman to post the bond for them, where they would have to pay 10% along with some state fees. That's the norm. Some bail bondsmen charge a little more than that, but they have that as an option. Or they can pay a cash bond. The cash bond is where they would pay the full amount, but then they would get that full amount back once the case is resolved. When you pay the surety bond with the bail bondsman, you never get that money back. That is the money that you pay directly to them. And then the bail bondsman company is responsible, fully responsible.
And we'll see what the fuck happens. Now, this is some shit that all of these red versus blue motherfuckers won't say, right? Like y'all heard that. Cash bond, fuck all those bail bondsman rules. You got $1 million in cash, you can just get that boy out. So if all of these diehard liberals and shit that can raise $1 billion to fund a Democratic candidate that probably has little to no chance to win, and they can raise that amount of money in like less than a month or whatever, why can't they get his family $1 million to get their baby home? He'll get it back soon as he shows up to court. You heard that. Just alone. No. Just let you know something, man. Just let you know something. They'll turn that shit into some black versus white shit, some race war shit. But what the fuck is $1 million? You know? To those people that can easily fund political candidates and all of that have no chance to win, but they can't loan, you know, this family $1 million so that they can get their baby out of a cage. I'm just saying. Maybe it's because this isn't as black and white as you think it is, or at least the other stuff isn't. They try to make it seem like that, but it's really not. Because $1 million bond, oof, for your average person, it just seems like a lot of money. And I get it. You know, there is a deleted person there. Like, I understand that. And again, my condolences, my heart goes out to that family, you know, that lost their child. But I always bring it back to this right here. The fact that, hey, Choco Kitty, they're always your babies. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. It's like somebody's baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's boy 17 years old. Come on. You know, boy 17 years old. You know, I got a son that's older than that. So it's like, you know, like for real. So I get it. You know? But I'm just like, $1 million seems like a lot, and it seems like the right amount because there's a life there. You can't really put a price on a life. I get that. But you're telling me if this kid's family were millionaires and he did that, that boy would be home. That's where it kind of becomes like, what the fuck? You know? You're supposed to be innocent till proven guilty. You're innocent till proven guilty. Like, for real. Kid hasn't been convicted of anything at the moment. But if he had money, he'd be out. You know? That's what I mean. And trust me, this isn't an indictment on this is so gray. Just like she said, we don't really know. Like, self-defense is so vague. It's so vague. It's really about the case that the prosecutors can make and all of that other stuff. I'm talking about the cash bond system. Like, it just seems like it disproportionately affects people without money. That's all I'm saying. Y'all are telling me that the reason why it has to be so high is because he's such a threat and all of this, that he can be a threat and a danger to everybody else. I get that. I understand. But you're telling me if he had family that had money, he would be less of a threat? What's up, West Side Rider? If anything, I would respect when they say no bond. That's it. You're a threat. I don't give a damn if you come up with $1 billion. You're sitting in this cage. You know? That I can understand that. You know? But when it's just, $1 million, it's like, damn. So that's an argument that, believe it or not, has been going on for a long time. You know, the cash bond system, you know, that we have in place in the United States of America and most states in the, just about all states in the United States of America, it disproportionately affects poor and impoverished people with less resources, in the worst way, in a negative way, compared to their counterparts with wealth and money. So when you're talking about the judicial system, the judicial system, when you're talking about that, like, keep in mind, isn't this supposed to be their symbol? The scales, everything's supposed to be balanced. Everybody's supposed to be considered equal in the eyes of the law, unless you're rich. I just say food for thought.
But they have that as an option, or they can pay a cash bond. The cash bond is where they would pay the full amount, but then they would get that full amount back once the case is resolved. When you pay the surety bond with the bail bondsman, you never get that money back. That is the money that you pay directly to them. And then the bail bondsman company is responsible, fully responsible. If you don't show back up to court, now they are fully responsible for the full amount of that bond to the court. So the cash bond is the other option where they can pay the full amount directly to the court. The family will get that amount back at the end of the case.
In this suspect, Carmelo Anthony, 17 years old, so technically still a minor being charged as an adult. Why is it in so many cases when someone's close to being 18, even though they're still a juvenile, they are charged as an adult?
It just really just depends.
Which, regardless of what she says, I agree with that. If you're going to try him at all, he gets charged as an adult. Like, that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're 17 years old. You get charged as an adult right here. Like, you're moving without adult supervision. I'm sorry. You're moving without an adult chaperone. Right now. So in situations like that, you should be charged as an adult.
Every case is just such a case-by-case basis. And then the courts will, the juvenile courts can sometimes just petition to the district courts in order for, based off of the severity of the offense, for that to be tried in a district court or county court at law. This is a severity type of case. I don't see why it's not moving forward in the district court. This is where it needs to be.
What's the timeline if this is something that happened on April 2nd? So I think it was on Wednesday this week. What's the timeline look like to when there eventually could be a trial?
It really just depends. So the cases such as this have no what we call statute of limitations. And so the police department has quite some time to build up their case. And then once they do that, they present it to the DA's office. The DA's office at the felony level then will present that case to a grand jury. The grand jury then decides if there has been enough probable cause and then moves forward to an actual prosecutor. That time frame could take months. It could technically take years before he actually has a trial date or a court date. So before we get to a trial date, before he gets to a court date. So that process could take months, years before we even get started on moving forward with this case.
And I think of Carmelo Anthony, this isn't someone who I've seen has a criminal record, not like a career criminal, someone who appeared to be, had a bright future, on the right track, captain of the football team, had college offers. How much will the court take that into consideration when eventually, if he's found guilty? And listen, he's charged with, there's no worse offense than taking the life of someone else.
Yeah.
Austin Metcalf's family, he's gone forever. So I'm not making light of that, but I do think of, this not being a career criminal and someone in the heat of the moment made a terrible, terrible decision thinking it was self-defense. Does any of that, could that factor into how much time he potentially could spend in prison?
I think that those things would go into account during the punishment phase. So not necessarily during the guilt innocence phase. And that's if this even moves forward to a trial. So let's say that, let's go back a little bit. Let's say that they decide that they're not going to move forward with the trial setting and they're going to try to work out some type of agreement with the prosecutors. The prosecutors will then be able to take that into account in some type of mitigating circumstances, stating just all the things that you just said. Maybe he was a great student, straight A's, about to go to college and was a great athlete, all these different things. And so those are things that can be taken into account there. If he moves forward with a trial setting, that does not go into effect, in my opinion, for the guilt innocence phase. It's either, did you meet the elements that for murder? Yes, no. And then once that is confirmed or not confirmed, if it is confirmed, then those things will go into account for the punishment phase, which is separate. And so a lot of times the defense attorney will be building up the case there for the punishment phase to try to reduce the punishment as much as possible.
How likely is it, with what you know, maybe just what you know from what prosecutors are like in the county where Frisco is located, and also the evidence at this point that it seems that the authorities have, that they would do a plea deal or negotiate a plea deal, as opposed to just saying, we have pretty clear evidence that you did this, we're going to take this to trial and make sure you face the full extent of the law?
Yeah, I think that the prosecutors in most counties around Texas, around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, are going to be somewhat reasonable. They're going to take in that information as much as possible. Just like we said before, we're going to use mitigating circumstances to take into consideration the punishment phase and what is appropriate for this particular defendant. Now, the prosecutors do run all of the offers that they provide generally by the victim. In this situation, the victim's family. So if they offer him 10 years TDCJ, which is prison, then normally they run that past the family and make sure that the family is okay with that offer. They don't have to wait for their approval, but generally they just run it by them to see how they feel about it, and if that is something that they would be okay with. And so I definitely think that it is something that they take into consideration. But it's always up to the prosecutors every time to decide on what they will be offering. And then if they move forward in the trial setting, if they decide to go to the judge or the jury for punishment.
But for people convicted of murder in Texas and in the Dallas area, in Frisco, I mean, what's typically the punishment? I know the most would be life behind bars, but realistically, how many years could he be spending behind bars in prison?
I mean, you're right. The maximum is 99 years. So many things go into consideration for that. And so when we say, well, what's realistic is up to 99 years. And so it just really just depends on so many factors, the factors of what comes out in the discovery, what comes out in the mitigating circumstances that we talked about. What is, was he about to go to college? What was the heat of the moment situation? And that's really the defense job, to try to work with the state and try to reduce that time as much as possible. So I don't want to say there's a specific number, because every case is different. And so it just really depends case by case.
And just lastly, Bridget, as someone who deals with cases with people accused of crimes that were heat of the moment crimes, they weren't career criminals. I was a on the street reporter for a good part of my career, and so many of the murders that I've covered, someone just felt disrespected over something that just wouldn't matter 15 minutes from now. And yet they make a decision, heat of the moment, someone loses their life, and then they spend the rest of their life in prison. How do we get past that? How do we deal with these situations so we don't have stories like this where someone like Austin Metcalf loses his life?
Really, the only way is education. Educating individuals on what is important for self-defense, when understanding what self-defense is, but then also how do we really control our emotions? How do we control our anger and be able to tell someone effectively that they're bothering us, or making sure that we stop whatever the behavior is without escalating it to bringing a knife in a physical argument. But also, I feel like a combination of education on what self-defense is, educating ourselves on the laws of our state, and then also controlling anger management, controlling exactly what it is, how we portray our feelings, our emotions when we're in public settings.
So well put. And educating yourself about the laws in each state is such an important part that people really should take up. Bridget Williams, trial attorney, joining us from Dallas, Texas. Thanks as always for being online.
Yeah, you can try to educate yourself about the laws, but it's going to be pretty tough. We'll check out one more video about 2 days ago. See what they got to say.
The 17-year-old accused of fatally stabbing a Texas student athlete during a track meet allegedly admitted to the crime. Now, he also asked officers if his actions could be considered self-defense. That is according to a newly released arrest report. On Wednesday morning, 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, a junior at Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas, was killed at a track meet. Police said a student from Centennial High School in Frisco, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, stabbed Metcalf in the chest during a fight. Anthony was arrested, now charged with first-degree murder, and is being held in the Collin County Jail on a $1 million bond. Our Fox 4 Dallas team has been covering all of the information here. Alex Boyer has the latest.
In that 7-page arrest warrant affidavit, several witnesses, including Metcalf's twin brother, described to a Frisco police officer that he stabbed Metcalf.
My son is gone, and I don't really have words. I've tried to figure out what I was going to say, but he's just going to be so missed.
The pain is still raw for the Metcalf family after 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was killed on Wednesday morning at a UIL District 11-5A track meet in Frisco.
That dude was extremely smart, always in the box. He just came to him real easy, and just him playing football as well just made him just a great person overall.
Here's what happened according to witnesses and the police report. Metcalf got into an argument with the suspect, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, over a seating dispute in the bleachers. Metcalf told Anthony he needed to move from under the team's tent.
He always was one to step up and be the person that would do the right thing. And he was doing the right thing by saying to this gentleman that you're not supposed to be in this tent. This is because they have personal items there.
Anthony opened his bag and reached inside and said,
"You like that?" She almost tried to justify why she knows damn well her son was trying to move somebody against their will, okay? And then decided to put his hands on the kid. All right. She would have been able to make a pretty damn good case had it been an adult that worked there. Yeah. Like, had her son been an adult that worked there. But your son wasn't. He was just another student. So, no. Like, I'll let y'all hear that shit one more time. And again, my heart goes out, but don't. Don't make it seem like what he was... him putting his hands on that kid was just justified. No, it's not.
Said to Metcalf that move from under the team's tent. got into an argument with the suspect, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, over a seating dispute in the bleachers. Metcalf told Anthony he needed to move from under the team's tent.
He always was one to step up and be the person that would do the right thing. And he was doing the right thing by saying to this gentleman that you're not supposed to be in this tent. This is because they have personal items there.
Anthony opened his bag and reached inside and said to Metcalf, "Touch me and see what happens." Metcalf reportedly grabbed Anthony and told him to move.
He knew he wasn't supposed to be there. He was just
like, how do you say that and then pretend like you didn't just fucking say that? Like, you just said you grabbed the motherfucker and tried to move them. Like, we've all gone to schools, whether you go to public school, private school, you're an extracurricular function. Other than that, and I get it, you're a football player, you're a linebacker, right? So it's kind of like what you do. You move boys against, you move other boys against their will, right? No. But when you're in the bleachers spectating for a game, I'm just saying, how the fuck do you justify putting hands on people? They haven't put any hands on you. So I'm like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know. It looks like self-defense to me. I get it. Folks are going to rip me apart, but that's what it looks like. I think the laws in Texas are the laws in Texas. This is up to a lawyer's interpretation, but I don't see them playing out to this shit. I don't see how it's okay to just be putting your hands on people. You a 17-year-old yourself. Fuck.
just a tragedy what happened.
That's when Anthony pulled out a black knife and stabbed Metcalf in the chest once before running away. When Anthony was taken into custody by a Frisco police officer, Anthony reportedly confessed to the crime, saying, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to," adding that, "I was protecting myself," and then asked the police officer, "Is he going to be okay?" Metcalf died in his brother's arms.
I mean, I get it. Look, why he was asking, hey, according to mom, he didn't go to school there, so he's not supposed to be underneath the tent. You know, it was a downpour, it was raining. I get it. You know, should anybody get stabbed? I agree. No, nobody should get stabbed. There really shouldn't be a knife like that there. And if it is one, because I get it, kids have knives. It sucks. But they do. It shouldn't get pulled out over a dispute over a damn seat. But at the same time, kids shouldn't be getting pushed around and shit in the bleachers. Like, once shit gets physical, shit gets physical. I'm like, I don't understand how people bullshit. Like, once a situation becomes physical and then the shit really gets out of hand, people are surprised. People bullshit like, oh, that's not supposed to happen like that. Fuck that. Once someone is struck by another person, really, to be honest with you, once you invade somebody else's personal space, you really don't know what the fuck's going to happen. Different people are going to react different ways. That's why I say the term self-defense is very, very broad. Like, it's just very broad. That's why there are similar situations in which some people survive and other people don't. But the situations are similar because they do different shit. Kind of just is what it is. I'm not saying that this kid deserved to to get stabbed in the chest. But the question is, was it self-defense, him being stabbed in the chest? I mean, self-defense is defending oneself. So once you get pushed, he's sitting there with his linebacker twin brother and a bunch of other people that are wearing their same colors. Okay? You defend oneself and you run. That's what he did. That's what it looks like to me. Doesn't look like they're going to cop a plea, though.
At that point, to forgive and forget, but eventually I will. But I pray for his family. I pray that they understand what we're going through as well.
This whole community has really wrapped their arms around us, and if I could say anything,
I hope they do. I really hope that each family understands what the other one's going through. But my heart goes out to both families because they do have to be concerned with themselves, right now. I'm gonna pray. Like, I'm gonna spend the rest of my night after I get off of here, praying, that I never have to, live through a situation like anything that either of those families are going through right now. Like, real shit, man. Because, like I said, just bang bang, just probably about maybe 45 seconds of just bad decisions from two people. From two people. Just 45 seconds of bad decisions every which way, however the fuck we look at it. I'm not saying anyone's right. What's wrong? And this is one of the reasons why I don't mind discussing this type of shit, but I don't like arguing about it because, it's all just, opinion. It's all opinion. You never know what what's up, E. Nicole? You never know what a jury's going to come up with. You never know what a jury's going to come up with. You don't know what approach the prosecutors are going to take. You don't know what the defense is going to come up with, what they're going to stress. There's still evidence that we don't know, like we haven't seen. There's going to be like actual witness testimony and shit. So it's a lot of things that go into that just go into what's going to come out of this shit, man. So, we just try to discuss it. Like I said, again, I'm not a legal professional. I don't know what the fuck is going to happen. I'm just, in my opinion, I don't see them copping a plea right here. Like, for real. I just don't see it happen.
thing to the nation, I would say, to make sure that you just hug your babies tight, because you don't know when the last time you get to do it.
In a statement released by the Metcalf family this afternoon, they say their focus is now on laying Austin to rest. Meanwhile, I can tell you that Anthony remains in the Collin County Jail on a $1 million bond. Alex Boyer, Fox 4 News.
Alex, thank you so much. Now, our Fox 4 Dallas team, as I mentioned, has been covering all of this from the get-go. They had a one-on-one conversation with Austin's father.
Well, it started with a call from his football coach who was not at the track meet and said, I think Austin has been stabbed. And I said, where at? And he said, Kukendall Stadium. I said, I'm on my way. So I drove up there, went through a load of police officers, and was able to see my son on the gurney with a huge hole and blood all over him, and they were pumping him. He wasn't breathing, and his eyes were rolled back in his head. So I had to find his brother. They're twins. And so I found Hunter and tried to get him under control as best we could. And then I loaded him up in my car, and we drove to the hospital as quickly as possible. And we waited. And when the doctors came in and said that he didn't make it, it was tough. My son took it extremely hard. Mm-hmm. I'm still in shock, to be honest. I mean, I'm numb. So it really hasn't hit me. And I don't believe any parent should ever have to bury their child. And I pray that, maybe there's changes made as far as security or things like that. And maybe we can learn from this and try to turn a tragedy into something positive to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else's child. I don't want.
I can agree with that. Yeah, you are gonna have to take some extra security measures, like for real. Just like you got TSA in the airports, just like you got the metal detectors at the athletic, not just the athletic events, but the arenas and all of that other shit. Yeah, you need to do the same thing at these high school, middle school, recreational track meets and shit. Yeah, I agree, Bridget. It is sad, but we have these, like, we got these provisions in place. When it's money at stake, notice that shit. When you got $1 billion fucking conglomerates and shit, that have billions of dollars tied up in sponsorship, television deals, sports teams, and player contracts and all that other shit. Oh yeah, metal detectors, extra security, cameras everywhere. Gotta protect the product, gotta protect the asset. But a couple of 17-year-olds with promising futures, a family sporting event, on the high school level, nothing. It's food for thought, like we always say that. We hear about the active shooter situations at the schools and shit. Middle schools, elementary schools, high schools, knock on wood, hopefully that will never happen. Again, I'm going to hope. But, the security that you see at a sporting event, a concert, because there's money involved. They'll protect money, but they won't protect kids and families and, just bystanders and shit.
On parents to feel like I feel today. So I've already forgiven the person who stabbed him. God's going to take care of everything. God's taking care of my son. I kissed him. When I kissed him goodbye for the last time, I told him it's not goodbye. It's see you later. So I just have to trust in God and my faith to pull us through. I don't understand his plan. We're all subject to trial and tribulations. God didn't say life was going to be fair or wasn't going to be hard, but he said it'll always be beside you and never leave your side. So we're going to lean deep into our faith. There's a vigil tonight at our church at 7:00. I will be attending also. The outpouring of students and coaches and friends and family that showed up at the hospital immediately. It was just shows the way my son touched people's lives. He was voted team MVP of the football team this year. He carried a 4.0. He was on National Honor Society. He's ranked in the top 50 of the state in his position. He's having D1 colleges contact him. He had a great life ahead of him. And to be taken away, it's such a tragedy. Man, I can't even tell you how I feel because I don't know how I feel. I feel numb at the moment. Yeah. I just hope that this doesn't happen to any other parent and their child. But I do hope for justice. Because this is unacceptable.
And the fact that, someone was immediately taken into custody, they know who did this. They are charging him with murder. I mean, how does that make you feel that police immediately got this person?
First of all, I feel sorry for that individual because he's now made a mistake that's going to cost him the rest of his life. The hard part that cost me is I lost my son, and his brother was holding him, trying to hold the blood in, and he passed. My son watched his brother die in his arms.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Austin, about, his personality?
Austin was a leader. He led the football team. He was voted team MVP by his players and coaches.
What was his position?
He played linebacker. Him and his brother both play linebacker. He played inside. His brother plays outside. We were so fortunate this past weekend that me, Hunter, and Austin, we grew up hunting together, and we had matter of fact, the ranch we own, the lease was not renewed, so we could never hunt there again. And we went there for the last weekend. And he said, Dad, I've never shot a pig before. I want to get a pig this weekend. I said, okay. Lord and behold, it's a heck of a story, but he shot his first pig this weekend. And we all talked, me, him, and Hunter both. We all talked about these are memories that you take forever. After I'm gone, you can tell your kids about, well, your grandfather and I, we were hunting and we stalked and it took 2 hours, but we got this. I got my first pig, and he was so excited. And I'm so fortunate to be able to spend that weekend, not knowing it was the last weekend I'll ever spend with him.
And he also was on the track and field team?
Also was, football was his pride and joy.
Yeah.
He was working on track to increase his speed. Matter of fact, he's already dropped this 40 times. He was telling me about how he's dropped it. He's going to drop it some more. And he was an amazing, dedicated athlete. And by the outpouring of his friends and family that showed up immediately at the hospital, goes to show how he impacted other people's lives.
And what did that mean to you to know that your son did that?
Well, for me, I was diagnosed with cancer 9 years ago, and I was not supposed to live. And God blessed me because he knew I needed to be a father for these two boys. My two boys is what my life lived. I lived my life for my children. That was my why to keep fighting. And I'm cancer free. So God had a plan for me. So I was able to watch and be blessed so much. But having both my sons are amazing. My other son is just crushed. And I feel for him now, and he'll never be the same. None of us will. Grief, we all go through it. But the thing about grief is you don't get over it. You just learn to live with it. So, I don't have a choice other than to carry on. Now I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure Austin's never forgotten. I'm sure he won't be. He's touched a lot of people's lives. He was a great individual, a leader, an athlete, very smart, 4.0. I couldn't ask for a better son. Two of them. I couldn't ask. They were my whole life. And for it to be taken away so senselessly, when this guy was just sitting in the wrong spot and they asked him to move, and he winds up stabbing my son in the heart and killing him. It's unfortunate, but he's going to answer.
Yeah, I mean, if it went down that simply, I mean, it's still unfortunate regardless, but it wasn't that simple. Like, it was a physical altercation before there was a stabbing.
He's going to have to answer to those consequences. They have no contact with this person ever before. I can tell you what happened. I know firsthand. I wasn't there, but I talked to my son.
Yeah, what is
everything. I know exactly how it all transpired. It was a multi-Frisco High School track meet. Yep. Many high schools were there. It started to rain, and they have their own little tent for memorial. And they were sitting there, and someone was behind them mouthing off, and he turned around and said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Mello." He said, "Well, you don't belong here. You don't go to memorial." He had a Centennial tracksuit on. And he said, "You need to leave. This ain't your spot." And some words were discussed. I'm not going to say on camera he asked him to leave and basically said, "Make me." And then he wound up stabbing him in the heart and killing him.
Yeah. You left out the part where your son pushed him. You left out that part. Left out that part. You paraphrased. The words were on point, but you left out the part where your son pushed him. Then he got stabbed.
All over someone sitting in the wrong spot at a track meet. Now, I don't blame his parents. I don't blame him. But they all will suffer too. I feel for their family because now their son will probably wind up in prison and learn that he killed someone. And he devastated and took my son that I can never get back. It's unfortunate for everyone involved. And I just hope it doesn't happen to anyone else. This world, you know, there need to be changes, and it starts at home. So I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just happen to say that try to be kind in this world. And if you can't be kind, find someone who is.
Is there anything else that you want people to know about Austin? You want people to know how he'll be remembered? Is there anything else that you haven't shared?
I mean, it's hard right now. My thoughts are all over the place, to be honest. I mean, there's so many great things about him. I could probably sit here for 3 hours and go on and on and on. But he was a great friend. He was a leader. He was well respected in school by his teammates, by his coaches, by his friends. His girlfriend came up to me and said, you know what? He talks about you a lot, and he loved you, and he treated me with great respect. And he goes, you taught him that, you know. He was going to turn out to be a great individual and impact this world with positivity. So he was on the right track. He was doing everything right. I was so proud to have 2 sons, not just him, but 2 sons that do the exact same thing. My other son, Hunter's like, Dad, I can't go on because Austin always had my back. I said, I know. And when I kissed his forehead today, as his body was cold, I ran my fingers through his hair. I told him, it's not goodbye. It's see you later. I'll join you at some point too, son. You just beat me to this place. So you keep an eye on me up there. Put in a good word for me. And we'll meet again.
Your faith is keeping you strong right now.
Yep. It's the only thing that's keeping me together. Otherwise, I'd be in a rubber room right now. So all I can do is pray. I don't understand it, but I have to live through it, and I have to still be here for my other son. So my journey's not done. It just took a really bad detour today that I'll probably never get over. I'll live with it the rest of my life. And I sure as hell don't want any other parent to feel the way that I feel today. Because when I got the call, I was scared, but I was hoping like he's stabbed in the stomach. It's not gonna be that big a deal, surgery, as long as he's okay. When I saw him, I knew it wasn't good. And then when his brother told me, Dad, I tried to hold the wound to the blood, but there was too much. And he died in my arms. It's tragic. I don't know what else to really say.
How can the community best help you right now? Help you and your family right now? Is it thoughts and prayers? Is there a GoFundMe? How can they help you?
I hadn't even thought about that. That's a good idea. GoFundMe. I'll probably have someone set that up, and prayers. I believe I'm heavy in faith, and we just pray that this doesn't happen again to someone else. Unfortunately, I get to be the example. But, we have to try to turn negatives into positives. And he was a great kid, and he impacted a lot of lives. I'll never forget him. And neither will a lot of other people. So, community-wise, talk to your kids. Teach your kids. It all starts at home. I know this world has changed. I'm old school. And it's a different world. It's unfortunate. But we all have to evolve. And if we all don't come together, black, white, yellow, brown, I don't care. It's all about human beings. We got to care about each other. We got to be kind to each other. You need to show compassion, show empathy, not anger, not rage.
Yeah. I can't disagree with him there. I kind of just really did want to just let that run. Because there's really, I mean, of course he did leave a few things out, but it's just sad. It's sad every which way. 17 years old, another 17-year-old, family lost a son. Another family got a son in the cage. It's $1 million to get him out. Like, shit's fucked up. All because of between 30 and 45 seconds of just bad decisions. Sad. Sad. But as far as the case for self-defense is concerned, just like I said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to delve into it. Not anymore tonight. I'm about to get up out of here. It was definitely fun. I want to remind anybody that's catching the replay, I'll leave it up. You'll stay stuck in the home of the official YT Purge, Antiques the Boiler Room. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super thanks if you're catching the replay. What is self-defense? So that's probably what we're going to delve into on Sunday. Also, make sure you guys catch Friday Roast Off. That'll be going on too. And I believe I will have a chop up with Underrated Darkness later on this week. So you guys check the community tab. I'll also be sharing that out on IG. You can go to a few of those comments. Yeah, that's fucked up. Just hearing that father speak, just heart goes out to him, because, I mean, like I say, kids are going to make bad decisions. They just are. They just are. Putting your hands on the wrong kid at the wrong time, in the wrong emotional, mental state. And then, kid just wrong place, wrong time, with the wrong reaction to the situation and the wrong knife in his bag. Like, just bad chemistry. So I don't believe that boy is as pure as they paint him. I'm sorry he lost his son, but that boy is not innocent. I feel like they are hiding something. I mean, like I said, the situation's so bang bang. You're going to hear more about it when the trial comes, and they're going to bring the witnesses. The witnesses are going to tell their recollection of 30, 45 seconds of events. It's fucked up. Like, it is just fucked up. But at the end of the day, there's no trial jury outcome that's going to bring, one kid back, and the other one, that's it. You wanted to play ball, that's over. That's over. Done. Done. Your life as you know it is forever changed. Whether you pay $1 million to get out tomorrow or not, your life is forever changed. And the other kid's life is forever gone. So it's a series of bad decisions both ways. I get it. But now this is up to the interpretation of the law. And the question is, what is self-defense? And was this it? It sucks that that's really what it goes down to. I get it. A lot of people are trying to make the argument of course, it's not right. I'm like, of course it's not right. But what is self-defense? What's considered self-defense? When does it stop? So again, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know what I'm saying? We'll probably have a morning rant one of these days, coming up this week. Also, membership link that's available should be in each description, and hit the super thanks. I'll be scheduling everything for the Friday roast off. We'll see what else is going on. Not sure if we'll do body cam breakdown and reactions, but if so, we'll find that out by tomorrow. On that note, I'm about to get all the way up out of here. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Peace.